Chapter 10:27. Hearing this, the woman was a little suspicious. "You've really decided to come in? Other than this, do we have any other choice?" Song Ming said, then smiled. "Also, I think this place is pretty good. There are beauties everywhere." Hearing this, and thinking about how Song Ming would occasionally take advantage of them along the way, the woman didn't doubt him. So she hooked her arms around his neck and smiled. "That's true. Other than this, you really don't have any other choice." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw her body stiffen. Her whole body hung in Song Ming's arms, unable to say a word. Song Ming supported the woman in his arms and looked at Fengjiu, only to see him glance around and say, "Take her away. I'll go take care of the people around here." "Be careful," Song Ming reminded her. Then, he helped the woman who couldn't move and walked forward. The place where the furnace was locked was isolated from the other side. There were about 10 people guarding here. 2 of them were foundational cultivators. If she wanted to quietly take care of these people, she would have to spend a lot of effort. Therefore, she quietly approached. If she could quietly take care of them, then she would quietly take care of them. If she couldn't, then she would come out and tempt them. After all, most of them were women. After quietly taking care of 12 people, she approached the 2 foundational cultivators. Before she even got close, they noticed her. "What are you doing here? Where are the 2 people who led you here?" The 2 frowned and stared at Fengjiu. Fengjiu smiled. Her clear eyes fell on the 2 people. They were the 2 foundational cultivators she saw in the hall earlier. Therefore, she smiled. "After I came out, I didn't see them. I'm not very familiar with this place and don't know the way, so I wanted to come over and ask." Hearing this, the 2 looked at each other. Then their eyes fell on Fengjiu, who was wearing a red robe, revealing a charming smile. "I seem to remember. You're called Fengjiu?" "Yes," she responded, then asked, "Senior sisters, I wonder if you can let me in to drink a cup of water. Come in." "Hee hee. Aren't you afraid that we'll eat you?" The 2 of them giggled. They clearly looked like they were in their 30s, but they were still very interested in a small and tender grass. Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled. Looking at the 2 women's voluptuous figures, she smiled and said, "Senior sisters are as beautiful as flowers. If Fengjiu really catches your eyes, wouldn't it be Fengjiu's fortune?" "Damn Xiang, that mouth of yours sure knows how to talk." The 2 glared at Fengjiu. One of them reached out a finger and lightly hooked Fengjiu's red robe, saying, "Come in." As soon as he finished speaking, he threw a coquettish glance at Fengjiu, closed the door. "All right," she responded softly, and the smile on her lips deepened. She followed the 2 into the room and closed the door behind her. Not long after the door closed, a skinny foundation establishment cultivator stared at the closed door and chuckled. "So he is also a hypocrite. I didn't expect this kid to have such a big appetite." Chapter 10:28. What's the point of hiding there and watching? Why don't you come along? When he heard the lazy voice, the male cultivator's eyes widened in shock. His face was filled with astonishment and excitement. He didn't expect this youth to say such enticing words. It really made him too excited. "Are you talking to me?" He walked out from the shadows, his eyes like a wolf's as he stared at the handsome young man in red. "Is there anyone else here besides you?" She raised her eyebrows and looked at him with a faint smile. Other than him, everyone here had been killed by her. Only this lecherous heretic cultivator hadn't noticed. Suddenly, she realized that it wasn't difficult to get rid of these lecherous bastards. She didn't know if they were too confident or if they were really blinded by lust. Where are those 2 women? Why haven't they come out? The male cultivator walked closer and stared at Fengjiu with excitement. Hearing this, she curled her lips and said meaningfully, They can't get up and are lying inside." "Ha ha. I really couldn't tell that you were so." Before he could finish his laughter, his eyes widened and he let out a muffled groan. He stared in shock and disbelief at the red-robed young man who had suddenly appeared in front of him. The pain in his chest, the stiffness in his body, and the blockage in his throat made him realize that this was not an illusion. This young man had really appeared in front of him in an instant and dealt him a fatal blow. "You should go in and keep them company too." Fengjiu turned around and pushed the stiff body inside. The moment the dagger was pulled out, fresh blood spurted out. The male cultivator unwillingly took his last breath. Even in death, his eyes were still wide open in disbelief. He was in the late stage of foundation establishment, while Fengjiu was only in the early stage of foundation establishment. Everyone here thought that Fengjiu was only in the early stage of foundation establishment. Who would have thought that she was already in the middle stage of golden core? It was really too easy for a middle stage golden core cultivator to kill a foundation establishment cultivator. In terms of speed, a foundation establishment cultivator would never be faster than a golden core cultivator. Fengjiu closed the door to cover the smell of blood in the room. She walked out and looked at the wisps of smoke drifting in the wind. She curled her lips and walked out. Fengjiu. Songming walked over with large strides. After looking around, he said to her, "There are too many people guarding the main door. I found a small path to leave this place." Hearing this, she threw the key to him. "Go save the people in the iron cages and bring them to the small path. Let them leave first." Okay. Taking the key, he quickly opened the cages and rescued the people inside. Then, he led them to the small path. "We're back." Not far away, Duanye's Ninglang rushed over and said to Fengjiu, "We lit up the smoke at the few windy areas. We also killed the evil cultivators we met on the way. There's no one left in this area. Let's go to the main hall." As she spoke, she looked deeply at the two of them. "Are you guys ready? Those people won't show any mercy to you. If you're not careful, you'll die." Chapter 1029. Next to her, Ninglang also patted Yuan's belly and grinned. "That's right. I'm a foundation-building cultivator after all. I can't deal with those nascent soul-old monsters, but I can still deal with foundation-building cultivators. If I really can't deal with them, I'll still run. I won't stand there stupidly and let them kill me." Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. "All right, come with me." As she spoke, she walked towards the main hall with them. The people on the other side were still unaware that the people in this area had been rescued. When Fengjiu and the other two came to the front, the people who saw them asked in confusion, "Why are you here? What about the two people who led you here?" They said they had something to do and told us to walk around on our own. Fengjiu smiled and moved her hand slightly. In the next moment, Duan Yi and Ning Lang, who were next to her, instantly rushed out. Their long swords, which were suffused with cold light, attacked those evil cultivators at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. Sword shadows rose and saber lights appeared, overflowing with killing intent. The surrounding people were shocked. Then, they shouted angrily, "How dare you?" When more than 10 cultivators surrounded and attacked the three of them, Duan Yi shouted in a low voice, "Flaming Lion!" At his command, the Flaming Lion, which was a sacred beast, rushed out from his spiritual beast space and pounced on those evil cultivators while stepping on flames. "Fengjiu, leave these people to us." As Duan Yi spoke, he swung his sword and chopped off the head of an evil cultivator at the same time. Blood splattered, and his ruthlessness was fully displayed at this moment. Fengjiu glanced at the two of them and nodded. "There are too many people. You two just have to hold on and wait for the medicine to take effect." As she walked forward, she also helped them deal with some of the cultivators. The commotion here alarmed the people above, especially the 3 nascent soul cultivators on the main peak. Such a big massacre and the smell of blood spread, causing the 3 of them to be shocked and furious. "What's going on? Who dares to cause trouble in our joyous union sect?" A disciple outside hurriedly came in and reported, "It's Fengjiu and the others. They released all the people we captured and killed all our disciples in the area where the cultivation furnaces were kept. 3 foundation establishment cultivators died in succession." Hearing this, the 3 of them were shocked. How is that possible? How could they have killed a foundation establishment cultivator without making a sound? He quickly rushed outside and looked down the mountain. What he saw made him feel shocked. Aren't they all drugged? Without the antidote, how did they condense their spiritual energy? At the foot of the mountain, the most dazzling figure was the red figure. He walked up the mountain as if there was no one around. Every disciple who tried to stop him was instantly killed by him. Especially when they saw the sharp sword in his hand that was glowing with a cold green light, they were even more shocked. Qing Feng's sword. It's actually the Qing Feng sword. Why does he have a Qing Feng sword? Who is he? Three shocked cries came from the three of them. The three of them looked at the Qing Feng sword in the red figure's hand in shock. That was an ancient divine weapon that had been missing for many years. How could he have it? Seeing the red-clothed youth holding the Qing Feng sword walk over like a god of death, not a single person was left alive. Wherever he went, corpses would fall to the ground. The three of them were shocked and suddenly came back to their senses. If this continued, all the disciples here would be killed by him. Chapter 10:30. Below, Duan Yi and Ning Lang, who inadvertently looked up, were also shocked. Unconsciously, their eyes were blinded by the sharp cyan light. Azure Edge Sword. It was actually the Azure Edge Sword. Feng Jiu actually held the Azure Edge Sword in his hand. How much did they not know about him? At this moment, they felt that when they thought they already knew him very well, he unexpectedly revealed a side that they would never have thought of. It made them feel that what they saw before, what they knew, was only the tip of the iceberg. Feng Jiu, who the hell are you? Three figures came in front of Feng Jiu. They waved away the disciples who rushed up and looked at the youth who showed the middle gold core stage cultivation in front of them. Their eyes revealed a touch of seriousness. This youth's bone age was only 17 or 18 years old, but he was already at the middle gold core stage. This kind of heaven-defying strength, even some big clans could not cultivate such a monster. Especially when he held the Azure Edge Sword in his hand, his body's pressure and fierce aura were fully revealed. That domineering aura and the majesty of a superior made them even more frightened. He was definitely not an ordinary student of a 2-star academy. Hearing this, Feng Jiu turned the Azure Edge Sword in his hand. A cyan light flashed in a half arc and fell at the feet of the three people. She looked at the three women and smiled. Now you want to ask me what I am? But don't you think it's too late? Feng Jiu, you're just a middle gold core stage cultivator. Do you think you could be a match for us nascent soul stage cultivators? One of the women snorted coldly. Accompanied by her cold snort, a nascent soul stage pressure also attacked Feng Jiu. However, what made the three people's faces ugly was that in the face of a nascent soul stage cultivator's pressure, Feng Jiu's expression did not change in the slightest. This made them stunned and frightened at the same time. Could it be that his cultivation was not just at the middle gold core stage? Could it be that he was still hiding his cultivation? Yes, before, didn't he suppress his cultivation to make them think that he was just a foundation establishment stage cultivator? But a teenage nascent soul stage cultivator? Was it possible? I prefer to let strength speak for itself. As soon as she finished speaking, the azure-tipped sword in her hand flashed, and a red figure rushed toward the nascent soul cultivator in front of her. Her extreme speed exceeded the speed of a golden elixir cultivator. Murderous intent surged from her body, and a powerful pressure emanated from her body. That was the pressure that she had been restraining all this time. It had the aura of an ancient divine beast. Her aura was domineering and extremely powerful. Feeling the pressure that was coming at them, the three of them were shocked, and a trace of astonishment flashed across their eyes. The pressure of an ancient divine beast. There was no mistake. The aura contained within that pressure caused their hearts to turn sluggish. The speed at which they should have dodged in the first instance had also slowed down a little. It was only when the cold green light was right in front of their eyes and the aura of death was right between their brows that the three of them suddenly trembled. They bit the tip of their tongues to stabilize their minds and swiftly dodged. Swish! Even though the nascent soul cultivator managed to avoid the fatal blow, his cheek was still injured by the terrifying sword chi. A streak of blood flowed down his cheek. Chapter 10:31. Just as they retreated, the long sword attacked again. They only saw a green light flash in front of their eyes, and a cold sword chi burst forth. They were injured by the sword chi, and felt a cold light penetrate into their bones, causing pain to spread throughout their bodies. Hiss! Damn Fungio! Under Fungio's ancient pressure, the three of them couldn't even get close to him. After a few exchanges, they were injured by his sword chi. Just as the three of them were feeling humiliated, they saw smoke rising from the mountain. When they saw the smoke spread, their killing intent soared. You dare to destroy our efforts. I'll kill you. The mid-nascent soul stage cultivator released her full power, and a blood-red longsword appeared in her hand. In the next moment, she flew forward, and the longsword in her hand gathered spiritual power in the air and slashed towards Fungio with a destructive force. The pressure of the middle Yuanying stage burst out, and his strength soared. Suddenly, a waterfall of airflow was formed, and it contended with Fungio's pressure. Wind, sand, and dust suddenly rolled up from the ground, and the whistling pressure formed a stormy wave, turning into two dragons that collided in the air. The red-robed Fungio and the scantily clad, nascent soul female cultivator fought from the ground to the air. A powerful pressure spread from the air and spread over 100 meters. Even the people fighting at the foot of the mountain felt their blood boil under this pressure and quickly retreated, unable to continue fighting. Under the pressure of the battle, the Joyous Union sect disciples who inhaled the smoke seemed to have lost all their strength and fell to the ground, unable to continue fighting. Seeing this, Duan Yi and Ning Lang worked together to take their lives while the effects of the medicine were taking effect. Halfway up the mountain, the two early nascent soul stage cultivators saw the battle in midair, and when they saw what was happening below, they couldn't help but gasp in shock. How could this be? They had just established their sect not long ago and had nurtured disciples for many years, but now they were either destroyed or killed. You all deserve to die. The two nascent soul cultivators roared angrily. They could not interfere in the battle in the air, so they would kill the two people below first. Monstrous killing intent surged as two figures flashed out towards Duan Yi and Ning Lang, who were at the foot of the mountain. Ning Lang was following Duan Yi and harvesting the lives of those evil cultivators. As the next successor of an aristocratic family, the training and cultivation they received was different from ordinary people. It was not their first time killing people, especially when they were killing evil cultivators. They would not hesitate to kill them. However, at this moment, they suddenly felt a chill on their backs. Their survival instincts made them feel the danger of death. They quickly turned around to look. What they saw shocked Ning Lang so much that he screamed. Not good. Duan Yi, run. Those two old witches are here. Ning Lang could not be bothered to take the life of the sorcerer on the ground. He pulled Duan Yi up and ran in a panic. The two of them together could not defeat a nascent soul stage witch. If they did not run, they would only be killed. Duan Yi turned around and saw the two nascent soul stage old witches rushing over from the middle of the mountain. Their eyes were cold and murderous. Before he could react, he was pulled away by Ning Lang. The speed of their escape almost caused him to fall to the ground unknowingly. Chapter 1032. Angry voices mixed with monstrous killing intent spread through the air. Under the influence of the nascent soul stage aura, their voices rumbled like thunder, shaking the air and causing the airflow to fluctuate. Duan Yi was being pulled as he ran. When he looked back, he saw that the flaming lion was still setting fire everywhere. He hurriedly shouted, "Flaming lion, run!" Of the two nascent soul stage cultivators, one was chasing after the flaming lion, while the other was chasing after Duan Yi and Ning Lang. Therefore, when they heard Duan Yi shout, they immediately snorted coldly. "Take care of yourself. Don't worry, even if you die, your contract beast will still follow behind you." Seeing that the nascent soul stage cultivator was getting faster and faster, as if she would be behind them in the blink of an eye, Duan Yi gritted his teeth and said, "Ning Lang, let go of me. I'll fight this old witch." "Fight what?" "That old, which is a nascent soul stage cultivator. You and I are only foundation establishment stage cultivators. Even if there are 10 of us, we won't be a match for that old witch. Run, don't be long-winded." Ning Lang, the little fatty, was not slow when he ran. He wiped his sweat as he ran. Because of his nervous and worried expression, he did not dare to relax and slow down. He pulled Duan Yi and ran to be chased by the old witch behind them. He looked back and said while panting, Fortunately, I didn't learn anything else but this escaping skill. Duan Yi, you have to thank me. Otherwise, you would have been caught by that old witch long ago. When you return to your home, you have to remember to send some gifts to my home. It's best if it's something valuable. If not, gold coins will do. Then I won't let you go in vain. Phew, I'm so tired. Duan Yi also noticed that his escaping speed was not slow at all. It was as if his feet were smeared with oil. He pulled him and ran at a speed that was not slower than him. However, it was not a way to go on like this. That old witch is catching up. Ning Lang, let go of me quickly. Otherwise, both of us will die. Let go of what? Am I such a disloyal person? He turned back and scolded, but when he saw the old witch 5 meters away, he was so frightened that he cried out involuntarily, "Ah, the old witch is catching up. You damn fatty. Shut up." Hearing the two of them talking about her, while running in front of her and calling her an old witch, the nascent soul evil cultivator was so angry that her face turned red. Seeing that the two of them were right in front of her, she immediately condensed a powerful airflow in her palm and suddenly attacked them. Shut your mouth forever. The two of them couldn't help but turn around in shock. They wanted to avoid it, but due to the inertia of running forward, they couldn't stop themselves from changing directions. Seeing the powerful airflow coming towards them, the two of them knew that they couldn't avoid it, and their hearts sank. They gritted their teeth and tried to block the attack. However, at this moment, they heard a deafening roar. The two of them looked over, only to see a white figure suddenly knock them out of the way. Due to the force of the collision, the two of them rolled on the ground for nearly 10 meters. After quickly getting up, the two of them saw that the figure that knocked them out of the way was Feng Jiu's swallowing cloud. Roar! The majestic Tun Yun had regained its original majestic body. The pressure and aura of a divine beast were fully displayed as it recovered. It was tall and big, like a tiger or a lion. It stood in front of Duan Yi and Ning Lang in an overbearing manner, guarding them. Swallowing Cloud. Chapter 1033. When they were captured, they did not see the devouring cloud and thought that it was left in the forest. They did not expect that it would find them and even save them. This was really a surprise for them. Divine Beast. The nascent soul stage old witch narrowed her eyes as a glint flashed across her eyes. She stared at the majestic cloud swallowing beast in front of her and said, "This shouldn't be your divine beast, right? Is it Feng Jiu's?" A mere teenager, not only had the green edge sword, he even had a contract with an ancient divine beast and a divine beast. This Feng Jiu, just who was he? With just a few of them, they were able to easily destroy the Joyous Union sect, which they painstakingly built up. They were really capable. All of a sudden, Ning Lang exclaimed and said, "I'm really stupid. I only cared about escaping and forgot that I have a treasure for escaping." As he said that, he took out a pair of golden boots from his dimensional storage and changed into them. Duan Yi took a look and asked in surprise, "Isn't this the cloud-chasing boots? You actually have it?" This was a good treasure. A pair of cloud-chasing boots was a magical treasure for escaping. With this speed, even a Yuaning cultivator would not be able to catch up to it. He heard before that the cloud-chasing boots appeared in an auction but was bought at a high price. He did not expect it to be in the hands of little Fatty. Hearing that, Ning Lang proudly raised his chin and said, "Why don't you think about who I am? I am the young master of Ning City. Don't think that only you guys have contracted beasts or treasured swords. I am also a person with treasures. Any one of them would be enough to scare you guys to death." Hearing that, the corner of Duan Ye's mouth twitched, and he could not be bothered to talk to him anymore. The Yuaning cultivator's face was gloomy as he clenched his fists and emitted a baleful aura. These youths really made them extremely shocked. Forget about that, Feng Jiu. They already felt that he was the most unusual amongst the youths. But they did not expect that this unremarkable little fatty would be able to casually take out such a treasure. At this moment, she really regretted it. Because she was too confident, she didn't let the disciples search them and take away all their treasures. It was only at this moment that they realized that the items in the Chinquin bags that were taken from them could not be considered as items at all. The items in the Chinquin bags were things that they were not afraid of being taken away. The real good things were hidden on them. Swallow Cloud, I'll leave that old witch to you. Fight if you can, and run if you can't. Duan Yi shouted at the cloud-swallowing beast. Seeing that the nascent soul old, which could not catch up with his flaming lion, and was running towards them, he immediately grabbed Ning Lang's hand and shouted, "What are you staring at? Run quickly! The old witch over there is here." "Ah, where? Where?" Ning Lang was shocked and quickly looked around. Sure enough, he saw the nascent soul stage, old witch rushing towards them from not far away. He was so frightened that he screamed and ran away with Duan Yi. The Yuaning cultivators are indeed Yuaning cultivators. They're all shameless. These two old things are more than 200 years old. How dare they bully us young children? They are too shameless. Hearing Ning Lang's aggrieved and angry words, Duan Yi said angrily, "Don't be long-winded. Run. After Fengjiu kills that Yuaning middle stage old witch, these two will not be far from death." Chapter 1034. Ning Lang turned back and scolded. "Only an idiot wouldn't run. Do you think we are like you? Darn old witch. Chase me if you have the guts. If you can catch me, I'll give it to you." Under his feet, the pair of golden boots came into play. He ran as fast as the wind, making it impossible for the Yuaning cultivator to catch up even if she wanted to. However, she was unwilling to let the both of them go just like that. Thus, she clenched her teeth and chased after them, especially when she heard little Fatty scolding her from time to time, but was unable to catch him. The Yuaning cultivator was angered to the point she almost vomited blood. "Darn you, darn little Fatty. Don't let me catch you. If not, I will skin you alive." The Yuaning cultivator was driven mad as she chased after him with all her might. The most hateful thing was that even though the person in front was provoking her, she could not catch up to him at all. The other Yuaning cultivator was entangled by Swallowing Cloud. A man and a beast were fighting there. Swallowing Cloud's roar and the other party's attack on the ground could be heard from time to time, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Just at this moment, a mournful voice sounded from the middle of the mountain. The voice was sharp and angry, causing them to look towards the middle of the mountain. "Fengjiu, who are you?" The middle Yuaning cultivator's dantian was pierced by Fengjiu's green-edged sword. The green-edged sword pierced through from the front to the back, and fresh blood flowed down the blade. The middle Yuaning cultivator held onto the sword with both hands and allowed the fresh blood to flow down. Her eyes were fixed on the red, clothed youth in front of her, as though she would not give up until she found out who he was. In midair, the youth's red robes fluttered in the wind, and his black hair flew messily, brushing past his handsome face. She held the azure-edged sword in her hand. At this moment, the sharp azure-edged sword that had collided with the nascent soul of the female nascent soul cultivator shattered her nascent soul and pierced through her body. If she pulled out the azure-edged sword at this moment, fresh blood would spurt out, and the evil cultivator whose blood vessels had been severed would die from the violent gush of blood. Therefore, her hands were tightly gripping the blade of her sword. Her enchanting eyes were fixed on Fengjiu. She wanted to know why she was about to die. "I am Fengjiu." His voice was calm, but it contained the domineering aura of an expert, causing people's hearts to involuntarily tremble. Just as her voice rang out, she pulled back her Qingfeng sword. In an instant, fresh blood spurted out, and the figure fell from the sky as if it had lost its support. It looked at the red-robed young man standing in the air and swallowed its last breath. However, it could never close its eyes as it stared fixedly at the figure. Bang! A heavy thud was heard as the mid-stage nascent soul cultivator fell halfway down the mountain. Her body rolled down until it was blocked by a rock. At this moment, she was no longer as beautiful and enchanting as before. All that could be seen was a mangled mess of flesh and blood. Hiss! Gasps could be heard from the foot of the mountain. When the two nascent soul cultivators saw what had happened, they were filled with shock. They looked at the red figure in disbelief, and then at the handsome young man. They couldn't believe that he, a gold core cultivator, could kill a mid-nascent soul stage cultivator. At this moment, fear and the desire to escape arose. Because of their fear and shock, only one thought appeared in their minds. Chapter 1035. With that thought in mind, they almost wanted to escape without thinking. The situation was already over. If they didn't escape now, when would they? Fengjiu, who was halfway up the mountain, saw that the two of them were escaping in two different directions. His eyes turned cold, and as he flew up, he untied the red armillary sash from his waist and attacked one of the nascent soul cultivators. Bang! With a clear shout, the 7-foot-long red armillary sash flew out as if it had a mind of its own. It flew out from halfway up the mountain and headed straight for the nascent soul cultivator. Within a few breaths, it was behind the nascent soul cultivator. The red armillary sash shot out and wrapped around the cultivator's body at lightning speed, binding her tightly. The nascent soul cultivator didn't expect that she would be bound by a red sash in a moment of panic. She immediately struggled to break free, but the more she struggled, the tighter the red sash around her body became. The red silk was like a huge snake that was tightly wrapped around her body. It was so tight that she couldn't even breathe. Furthermore, the red silk was still tightening around her body. She couldn't even muster the slightest bit of strength, let alone struggle to break free from the red silk. Right at this moment, a sharp arrow suddenly pierced through the air. The tip of the arrow was imbued with a powerful aura, and it pierced into the female nascent soul cultivator's glabella with devastating force. As fresh blood spurted out, the body fell down. However, a blood-colored nascent soul darted out of her body and tried to escape in a panic. Immediately after, a second arrow shot out and pierced through the blood-colored nascent soul. The nascent soul fell and was swallowed by Tun Yun, who pounced on it. Duan Yi and Ning Lang were stunned for a moment. They looked in the direction of the arrow and saw Song Ming standing on the mountaintop not far away, holding a bow and arrow in his hand. Damn, what kind of treasure is that? It doesn't look like an ordinary bow and arrow. Ning Lang said curiously as he stared at the bow and arrow in Song Ming's hand. He realized that the arrow flew back to his hand automatically as if it had a mind of its own. He was even more certain that it was definitely a treasure on the level of a magic treasure. Bang! Swoosh, swoosh. Bang! The sounds of battle from the other side drew their attention back. Fengjiu was fighting with the remaining nascent soul female cultivator. The nascent soul evil cultivator knew that she was doomed, so she didn't hold back and fought to the death. At this moment, she no longer had any extravagant hopes of killing Fengjiu. She only thought that it would be good enough if she could save her own life. However, the more she fought, the more she felt that Fengjiu was the type of person who became more and more courageous. It could be said that this red-clothed young man, called Fengjiu, was a born warrior. His speed was extremely fast, and his attacks were crafty and ruthless. He didn't seem like a cultivator in the middle stage of the Aura's core stage at all. Instead, he seemed like an old monster in the peak stage of the nascent soul stage. The battle between the two affected the surrounding ground. Air currents surged and soared, chi collided, creating deep craters on the ground. Dust and smoke flew up. The air pressure formed by the air currents of the experts spread out. Time to end this. Fengjiu's voice was cold and filled with killing intent. The nascent soul evil cultivator was still thinking of how to escape when she saw Hong Yi rush over and appear in front of her in an instant. The green sword that was glowing with a green light and carried an aura of death as it slashed towards her. Chapter 1036. A blood-curdling scream pierced through the sky, piercing through the clouds and reverberating throughout the entire sky. Blood splattered in midair, like splashing ink, and a rain of blood fell from midair. Following the death of the last nascent soul evil cultivator, the air currents and pressure in the air dissipated, and everything returned to normal. In midair, the red figure stood in the wind with a green sword in his hand. His robes fluttered in the wind, and his black hair danced in the wind. The evil aura and the aura of a ruler were undoubtedly revealed at this moment. Fengjiu stared down, and his gaze fell on the three people. Then, in a flash, he withdrew the red armillary sash and green edge sword and rushed down to the three people below. Fengjiu, you're too powerful. Ninglang looked at him with admiration. He was clearly the same age as them, but his combat ability was so strong. He was really much stronger than him. Of course, don't you know who I am? She imitated him from before, clasped her hands behind her back, and raised her chin, looking very pleased with herself. Haha, of course I know. You're Fengjiu and the Ghost Doctor. However, people outside only say that you're good at refining pills and medicine, but they don't know that you're so good at fighting too. Ninglang laughed loudly, and the eyes on his chubby face narrowed into a line. As if he thought of something, he slapped his thigh and shouted, I have to go and harvest their treasures. See if there's any treasure here. As soon as he said that, he quickly ran off. Fengjiu shook his head and smiled. He looked at Song Ming and asked, Did you bring those people out? Don't worry. I brought them out of that small path and sent them safely away before coming back. They're all people from a nearby area. Once they're out of here, they can go home. Song Ming grinned, revealing a happy smile. This was the first time he had done something so big, destroying an evil sect. Just thinking about it made him excited. You're not injured, right? Fengjiu sized up the two of them. Seeing that other than some small wounds on their bodies, there were no major injuries, he was relieved. No, these small injuries are not a big deal. The two of them said, That's good. Since the fire is already burning here, let's first plunder all the treasures here and then burn down this mountain. As she spoke, she worked together with them to loot the Qinquan pouches on the evil cultivators, as well as their valuables and the storage of their sects. In the evening, when they walked out of the mountain, the flaming lion had already returned to Duan Ye's space. Tunyon had also shrunk back into his mini-pet. The mountain behind them was still burning, forming a contrast with the sunset. It was like a cloud of fire burning on the horizon. They found a place to change out of their blood-stained clothes and rushed to the nearest town before the sky turned completely dark. For hours later, when the sky had already darkened, the four of them finally arrived in nearby town. The few of them walked on the main street and looked around. Fengjiu looked at the roadside stalls and some local snacks. Duan Yi looked at the nearby inns, which were better. Ninglang looked at the businesses here, and Song Ming looked at the red light streets with a face full of surprise. Although this town isn't big, it looks like there's quite a lot here. Chapter 10:37. Seeing the three people looking at him, he smiled embarrassedly and waved his hand. No, I'm just saying. At most, I'll just take a look. Don't worry, I won't go. There's an inn in front. Let's go there and rest first. Duan Yi pointed to an inn in front and said, Fengjiu responded, then turned to Song Ming and said, Don't cause any more trouble. We've been here long enough. I know. Song Ming responded, touched his head, and followed behind them to the inn. After resting for a night, until the next morning, they got up and ate breakfast on the first floor. When they heard some of the guests in the inn talking about the fire in the mountain, they looked at each other and ate quietly. That place is an evil sect. I heard that they caught a lot of people there. Some of the forces in the nearby towns can't do anything to them. I heard that there are 3 nascent soul-stage old monsters guarding there. Each of them has a powerful cultivation base and a powerful charm technique. No matter how strong a person's willpower is, once they enter there, they can't get out. Yes, I also heard about this. It's said that it's a branch of the Hahuan sect. When some forces saw that there were 3 nascent soul-stage cultivators guarding the evil sect, they also cleaned up the snow in front of their own door. This time, I don't know who it is, but they actually wiped out the Hahuan sect overnight. Yes, the fire has been burning since last night, and the fire hasn't subsided. Many people were attracted by the fire last night. It said that everything inside has been burned to ashes. This is getting rid of evil for the people. I really don't know which hero is so good, doing a good thing that others can't do. I don't know. Those people who were saved are probably still in shock. Maybe after a few days, they will naturally tell us what happened. And that's true. All in all, it must be a righteous cultivator. That's for sure. Hearing their words, except for Fengjiu, the other three were secretly happy. Although they were happy in their hearts, they still didn't show it on their faces. However, the corners of their lips raised while eating revealed their happy mood. Fengjiu smiled and ate his breakfast quietly. She was already used to this kind of thing, so she didn't think much of it. However, they were all teenagers, so it was probably their first time doing something like this. It was the first time they were praised like this, so it was inevitable that they were happy. Fengjiu, you should have information on Luo Fei, right? That guy is a slippery one. How do you plan to take him away? Duanyi asked as he looked at the person sitting opposite him. Yes, I've looked through the information of the four of you before I came out. As she spoke, she glanced at the three of them. All of you are troublemakers. You're quite capable of causing trouble. We can take this as a compliment from you. The three of them grinned. Now that they were familiar with each other, they felt more at ease with each other. She put down her chopsticks, wiped the corners of her mouth, and said leisurely, "It's good to be thick-skinned. You can do what others can't. All right, hurry up and eat. Once we're done eating, we'll leave and reach the Luo residence before evening." Chapter 1038. But at this time, these few people did not know that Luo Fei, who was the most scheming, had already received the news and knew that the Two-Star Academy had sent a mentor to teach the four of them. Moreover, after receiving the news, he had sent people out to inquire about it, and after learning that Ning Lang and Song Ming had already been subdued and taken away, he had already started making plans in his heart. What mentor? A student from 6-Star Academy wants to be my, Luo Fei's, mentor? Only those three idiots would be fooled. I guess they don't even know that the person called Fengjiu is a student from a 6-Star Academy. Sitting in front of the table, he tapped his fingers on the table, making a knocking sound. His eyes were rolling. He was already thinking about how to greet this mentor. "Young master." The voice of a guard came from outside. "Come in." Luo Fei called out. Looking at the guard who came in, he asked, "What's the matter?" "Those people are already coming to our city. It is estimated that they will enter the city in the evening. What to do next? Please instruct me, young master," the guard respectfully said. Hearing this, Luo Fei paused for a moment and then said, "Send someone to wait outside the city gate 100 meters away. When you see them arrive, immediately come back and report to me. Young master, I will bring people to pick them up." The guard was stunned. He looked up at him and saw that his face was smiling like a fox with bad intentions. He quickly bowed his head and said yes. Then he quickly left. After the guard left, Luo Fei walked around the room. Thinking for a moment, he went outside and asked, "Where is my father?" "Master and madam are playing chess in the courtyard." The servant outside replied, "Playing chess?" He touched his chin, his eyes turned, and stepped outside. Arriving at his parents' courtyard, he saw the two of them drinking tea and playing chess under a tree in the courtyard. He smiled and trotted forward. "Father, mother, so you are here. Feia, why are you looking for us?" the beautiful woman asked, looking at her son with a doting gaze. The couple only had one child. They had loved him since he was a child, but because they had spoiled him too much when the child grew up, it was indeed a headache for them. The middle-aged man looked up from the chessboard, glanced at his son, then looked at the chessboard and said, "For them to come looking for you and me, it is definitely not a good thing, speak. Did he cause some trouble outside again? You want your old man to help you finish the job?" "Father, your son is not a troublemaker. Why would I cause trouble all the time?" He walked forward with an innocent and harmless smile and affectionately held his mother's hand, saying, "Mother, I came here to tell you that since you have nothing to do at home, you don't know how to soak in the hot springs. I've asked someone to book the entire Yuming Mountain Villa. Why don't you go there and stay for 10 days or half a month before you come back and relax?" "Oh, are you trying to kick me and my mother out?" Family head Luo snorted and his face darkened. He looked at his son, who was holding his wife's arm, and asked, "What do you want to do by sending us out?" Madame Luo also patted her son's hand and lightly tapped his forehead, asking with a smile, what are you trying to do? If you don't tell father and mother clearly, father and mother won't let you have your way." Chapter 1039. Hearing this, the husband and wife were startled for a moment. Then their faces lit up with surprise. "Oh, you have friends coming? Where are they from? Why haven't we heard you mention them?" As far as they knew, their son didn't seem to have made many friends, and he had never mentioned any friends in front of them. Friends like these who came to the house were even rarer. Therefore, when they heard this, they couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. So their son still had friends. Seeing his parents' expressions, the corner of Luo Fei's mouth twitched. Suddenly, he felt that it wasn't good to say this. If the two of them were in the mood and decided to stay to greet his friends, then Madame Luo looked at him disapprovingly and said, "You child, how can you ask your parents to go out when your friends are coming? What will the guests think? Moreover, you're just a child. How can you know how to greet guests? Let's stay at home and help you look after them. Don't worry, we won't let your friends feel restrained." Patriarch Luo also nodded and said, That's right, that's right. Your father also wants to take this opportunity to meet some of your friends. I believe that they must be very outstanding if they can make friends with you. We can't neglect them." Hearing this, Luo Fei couldn't maintain the smile on his face. The corner of his mouth twitched and a few black lines appeared on his forehead. Looking at his parents, who were excitedly discussing how to greet the guests, he suddenly felt like he had lifted a rock and smashed it on his own feet. That father, mother, actually I could... Without waiting for him to finish, Luo family head glared at him and lectured. What can you? You little brat, how many abilities do you have that I don't know? I'll let you play tricks and you can do it? Let you greet the guests? Can you do it? I can do it. Why couldn't he do it? Moreover, he had originally planned to play tricks. It was because it was inconvenient with his parents around that he thought of a way to coax them out. Who knew that they wouldn't fall for his trick and actually said that they would stay to greet the guests. All right, it's settled then. Father and mother will stay to greet the guests. Don't worry, we won't be rude with us around. Otherwise, when your friends come and see the host of the house hiding, how would that be? Madame Luo said, and asked with a smile. Come, tell mother, how many of your friends are here to look for you? When will they arrive? I'll get someone to prepare it. Seeing his son's embarrassed and disdainful face, the hot-tempered patriarch Luo directly kicked him and scolded him. You don't know how lucky you are. Others can't even wait for their parents to greet the guests for you, but you actually disdain them. I didn't. He hurriedly dodged and looked at his mother with a wronged expression. Who knew that his mother wouldn't help him? Fei, quickly tell us, when will your friend arrive? Do we need to send someone to pick them up? They've never been to our house before, so I'm afraid they don't know the way. Take your men and wait at the city gate. Bring them home. Mother, listen to me go. With a smile on her face, she turned to the Luo clan's head and said, It's rare for Fei to have a friend here, so we mustn't be impolite. I'll go and arrange for a few guest rooms to be prepared. All right, go ahead. Chapter 1040. Luo Fei's mouth twitched, but he could only sigh helplessly. Toward his father and mother, he really could only comply. So, he told them that the person might arrive in the evening, and went back first, intending to go back and think of a way. Here, the Luo clan's master and madam were happy. Knowing that the guests would come in the evening, they were busy preparing for the banquet. In fact, it was precisely because they knew that their son had few friends, so when they heard that a friend was coming, they were so excited and happy. The influence of making friends was great. If you make good friends, you can learn good things. If you make bad friends, you will also learn bad things. Therefore, they were hoping that this time, when a friend came home, they would be able to check him out and see what kind of friends he made. If there were some friends with bad behavior, extreme personalities, and bad character, as parents, they would naturally cut off such friend for their children. If the other party was polite and upright, they would naturally let their children interact more with them and learn from their good points. Teenage children were in a rebellious state of mind. Many times when they came in contact with bad people, it was very easy for them to learn bad things. As parents, they would not harm their children. They would only worry about their children. Until the evening, the guard had not reported that the person had arrived at the gate, but Luo father and Luo mother had already urged him to go out and wait. Helpless, he had to wait outside the gate. Luo Fei, who was sitting on a rock, looked around in boredom with a green foxtail in his mouth. There were so many people entering the city, but the person he was waiting for still hadn't arrived. He couldn't help but stand up and kick the rock. Still not here? Didn't they say in the evening? Making this young master wait here for so long. This face is really big. Young master is coming. A guard shouted, pointing to a few people who were not far away. Hearing this, Luo Fei looked at the people coming. Sure enough, he saw a red figure with 3 people and a small pet coming over. His eyes swept past the 3 people and fell on the body of a dazzling red-clothed youth. His eyes flashed with a touch of surprise. This kid was the mentor? A place like the 6-Star Academy. Unexpectedly, there was such an outstanding person. It was said that he had turned the holy land of the 2-Star Academy into a mess, and had even advanced to become a Jindan stage cultivator. TSK, a 17 or 18-year-old Golden Core cultivator, this talent was indeed a bit monstrous. It would be difficult to find a genius from a second-tier country that could compare to him. Pay. What did he mean by it was difficult to find someone who could compete with him? Only a brat from a 6-tier country would not be taken seriously by him. With a thought, he immediately grinned and greeted them with a joyful smile. When Duan Yi and the other 2 saw the youth walking over, all of them had a wisp of surprise. Wasn't that Luo Fei? How did he know they were coming? He was actually waiting for them here. Fengjiu glanced at Luo Fei instead, and a wisp of a dim light flashed through her eyes, yet she didn't reveal any surprise on her face. Compared to Duan Ye's group of 3, she knew that someone was watching them all along the way, and she was originally wondering who it was. However, looking at the current situation, it should be the little fox, Luo Fei. Chapter 1041. Seeing this, Duan Yi and the others were slightly surprised and opened their mouths in astonishment. Instructor Feng? He knew that Fengjiu was an instructor. This Luo Fei actually knew about the news from the academy. He even knew that Fengjiu would be coming here. Fengjiu smiled as he looked at the enthusiastic young man walking towards him. You're very well informed. He, of course. I have nothing to do at home all day, so I like to ask around for news. Coincidentally, I have someone at the academy who passed the news to me. Only then did I know that Instructor Feng would be coming. Thus, I've been waiting here for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, you're here. Hearing his casual words, not only were Duan Yi and the others speechless, even Fengjiu's mouth twitched. Looking at the enthusiastic young man in front of him, he didn't know what to say. Instructor Feng, I've asked someone to prepare a sedan chair. Please get on. He turned slightly and shouted at the people behind him. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and bring the sedan chair over. 4 guards carried the sedan chair over. It was a simple sedan chair for 1 person and was not very eye-catching. Fengjiu glanced at the sedan chair and said, There's no need. I'll just walk in and see the scenery of the city. How can that be? You're an instructor. I can't neglect you. Don't be so courteous with me. Just treat this place like your own home. Please. I say, Luo Fei, aren't you being too mean? Since you're here to pick us up, you should have called for more sedan chairs. How can you only bring Fengjiu? This is too much of a difference in treatment. Ning Lang said unhappily, glaring at him. He felt that he was being too mean. Of course you can't compare yourself to an instructor. Students should act like students and respect their teachers. Don't you know that? I'm respecting my teachers. Actually, it's not far. After entering the city, we'll be there after a short walk. My house is very close. He grinned and invited Fengjiu to get on the sedan chair. Seeing this, Fengjiu curled her lips and stepped forward. The guards carrying the sedan lifted the curtain and lowered the door to let her in. She glanced at the palanquin, then bent down slightly and walked in, sitting in the palanquin. Duan Yi and Song Ming looked at each other and didn't say anything. Seeing the palanquin lift up and head towards the city, they followed behind it. However, after taking a few steps, they were stopped by Luo Fei. "Hey, I say, how did you guys get together with him?" He crossed his arms and looked at the three of them, saying, "If my information is correct, this brat surnamed Feng is only a student of a 6th grade academy and went to participate in that ranking competition between the academies. How did you guys get abducted by him?" It was one thing to kidnap one, but all three of them were kidnapped at the same time. Are you guys all right? Hearing this, the three of them looked at each other and couldn't help but reveal a smile that outsiders couldn't understand. Looking at the dissatisfied Luo Fei in front of him, Song Ming smiled and said, "Weren't you calling Teacher Feng just now? How did you become that brat surnamed Feng the moment you turn around? Since you're so well informed, how come you don't know why we're following him?" Seeing the strange smiles on the three of them, Luo Fei was puzzled and asked, "Weren't we abducted by him? Is there something that I don't know?" Chapter 1042. The group entered the city and headed towards the Luo residence. When they passed by the most bustling central street in the city, Luo Fei, who was walking in front with Duan Yi and the others, turned around and signaled to the cultivators behind him. Then, he spoke to Duan Yi and the others beside him and walked faster. When the cultivators saw his gaze, they paused for a moment and pressed the mechanism of the palanquin at the same time. There was a click as if something was emitted. Even Duan Yi and the others in front turned around to take a look. However, nothing happened. Luo Fei, who was walking in front, turned around to take a look. He was surprised and couldn't help but slow down. He came to the side of the palanquin and called out, "Teacher." When Duan Yi and the others saw this, they looked at each other and also slowed down to the side of the palanquin. When they saw Luo Fei calling out, they couldn't help but look at him strangely and asked, "What are you doing?" Luo Fei glanced at them and called out again, "Teacher, Teacher Feng." After calling out twice, no one responded. Thus, he reached out and lifted the curtain to take a look inside. When he saw, he couldn't help but be stunned. "Where is he?" When Duan Yi and the others saw this, they couldn't help but be stunned. Looking at the empty palanquin, they couldn't react. The cultivators carrying the palanquin were stunned. After putting down the palanquin, they looked inside and said, "I don't know. We didn't see him get off the palanquin." "You set up a mechanism in this palanquin?" Song Ming looked at Luo Fei and asked, "What are you doing?" "Even if I set up a mechanism, I can't make him disappear. But now, where did he go?" He was also confused. He didn't know when the person in the palanquin disappeared. "Look for him. Why did you make her disappear for no reason? What do you mean by this?" Song Ming pushed him and said angrily, "Hurry up and find him for us." "How do we find him?" "Look back. Could he have gotten off the palanquin when we entered the city? Let's go back and ask." As Luo Fei spoke, he hurriedly ran back. The others followed him and asked passers-by if they had seen the man and the beast. At the same time, the red-robed Fengjiu stood at the entrance of the Luo clan with Tun Yun in his arms. He could not help but smile when he saw the door open. An old man walked in and looked at Fengjiu with a smile. "May I ask if young master is looking for my young master?" "I'm looking for your master," Fengjiu said. "Young master, please follow me." The old man smiled and invited Fengjiu in, saying, "Our young master said that he had a friend coming today, so this old servant thought that you were our young master's friend." "Yes, I just saw your young master. He went out of the city to pick us up. However, I think he's still behind. He should be back in a while." Fengjiu chuckled as he strolled in leisurely. He stroked Tun Yun's soft fur with one hand. Our master and madam heard that young master's friend was coming and specially waited at home. They were afraid that young master wouldn't be able to greet them. When master and madam see young master, they will be very happy. The housekeeper brought Fengjiu to the front hall and said, "Young master, please wait for a moment. This old servant will go invite our master and madam." "All right." She nodded and sat down in the hall. The old man hurriedly left to report. Not long after, Patriarch Luo and Madame Luo arrived together. When they saw the red figure sitting in the hall, Their eyes lit up, and they couldn't help but praise her in their hearts. Chapter 1043. While the two people were sizing up Fengjiu also looked back at the two people, and when the two people came in, she also stood up and slightly nodded to the two people. Luo clan head, Madame Luo. Ha ha ha, this young master, please sit down. The more Luo clan head looked at him, the more satisfied he was, thinking that his son's friend was really outstanding. Compared to his son, he did not know how many times. He saw that he was wearing a red robe, dazzling like fire, with infinite magnificence. The young man was wearing a red robe that was wantonly showing off, that kind of noble aura that came from his bones, and that kind of demonic temperament mixed with each other, coupled with that handsome and outstanding face. It was really amazing at first glance. One could tell that he came from an excellent clan and had received excellent training to have such a demeanor and temperament. I don't know how to address young master, Luo clan head asked with a smile, looking at the young man in red sitting below. My surname is Feng. My name is Jiu. Luo clan head can call me Fengjiu. Then you must be the friend that Fei mentioned. Madame Luo gently smiled and said, Fei told us this morning that a friend was coming. We have been preparing since this morning, for fear of neglecting the guest, young Master Feng. Since you have come, you must stay here for a few more days. Then, as if thinking of something, Madame Luo said, Oh right, is young Master Feng also a student of a 2-star academy? I did not expect that my Fei would be able to make such an outstanding friend like young Master Feng. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and said, The two of you misunderstood. I am not a student of a 2-star academy. While speaking, she took out the identity jade card of a 2-star academy teacher and handed it over. I'm a teacher of a 2-star academy. The dean handed over Luo Fei and the other 3 students to me. Therefore, I came here to take them away. Teacher? The husband and wife were very surprised. Such a young teacher. Taking a look at the jade card, they found that she really was a teacher of a 2-star academy. Perhaps it was because the Luo family had yet to spread the portrait of the ghost doctor. Therefore, even the Luo family head did not know that this red-clothed youth in front of him was the renowned ghost doctor of various countries. In addition, now that he had seen his identity jade token, he would not think too much about it. Yes, Luo Fei told the two of you. It should be us. Other than me, there are 3 other students from the same academy who came with me this time. Speaking of this, the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. But I reckon that they're still outside. Perhaps they'll be back in a while. I see. The husband and wife looked at each other and smiled. After knowing what had happened, they chatted with Fengjiu in the hall while waiting for them to return. However, this wait actually lasted for more than 2 hours. It was only when the sky outside had darkened that they saw the steward quickly walk in to report. Master, madam, young master and the others have returned. As soon as the housekeeper finished speaking, a figure walked in, panting heavily. When he saw the red-clothed youth sitting inside and chatting with his parents with a happy smile, the anger he had suppressed all the way couldn't help but erupt. The moment he stepped into the hall, he angrily shouted, Surnamed Feng, why are you here? Chapter 1044. What are you talking about? Is this the attitude that a student should have toward a mentor? You are getting more and more presumptuous. The Luo clan's patriarch shouted in a deep voice. His face sunk as he stared at the angry Luo Fei. Father, you don't know. We have been looking for him outside for more than an hour. Who would have thought that he would actually come to our house? Luo Fei angrily said, staring fiercely at Fengjiu. Even the pureness that he pretended to put on was thrown aside. Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Song Ming stepped forward and cupped their hands in salute. Greetings, Patriarch Luo, Madame Luo. At this time, the Luo couple's gaze fell on the 3 people. After seeing Duan Yi and the other 2, they secretly nodded and said with a smile, sit down and rest. The 3 people complied and sat down. After sitting down, the 3 people's 6 eyes fell on Fengjiu, who was sitting opposite them and playing with the cloud swallowing fur. After not being able to find him, they thought that he might have come to the Luo clan. However, the three people guessed this point, but did not remind Luo Fei. Instead, they found a place to sit down and drink a cup of tea, watching Luo Fei search the city for more than an hour before finally returning to the Luo clan with him. With Fengjiu's personality, how could he be at a disadvantage? This Luo Fei wanted to mess with him, but in the end, he only messed with himself. What are the three of you called? Are you all students of a 2-star academy? Madame Luo asked with a smile, her gentle eyes falling on the three people. We are the same as Luo Fei, because we do not like to stay in the academy. We have been helping at home. Ning Lang said until here. When his foot was stepped on, he took a deep breath, seeing Song Ming frown at him. He reacted and looked at the two people in the main seat with an embarrassed smile. Ha ha! In fact, it is very good at home. My parents love me at home, right? My father is Ning Yuan. He is the richest man in the Song country. My name is Ning Lang. Oh, so it is City Lord Ning's son. Luo clan's patriarch nodded, with appreciation in his eyes. I heard that young Master Ning has been helping City Lord Ning to make money since he was young. He is a natural-born moneymaker. Today, seeing young Master Ning's fortune and wealth, this Luo really envious of City Lord Ning for having such a son. Ning Lang was a little embarrassed by his compliment, and a touch of uneasiness appeared on his pleasant face. He scratched his head and said with a silly smile, Master Luo, you flatter me. I am Song Ming, and this is Duan Yi. We are both students of the 2-star academy, and this time we are following our mentor to gain experience. Song Ming smiled as he introduced. Looking at the furious and sullen Luo Fei, he said with a smile, the few of us have already walked all the way here. Only Luo Fei is missing. Hearing this, Luo clan's patriarch smiled. With you accompanying and Teacher Feng leading the team, we are very relieved to let this kid go with you. But this kid is also a troublesome person. I am afraid that he will cause trouble for Teacher Feng. While speaking, he looked at Fengjiu. Fengjiu chuckled and said, Patriarch Luo can rest assured. I specialize in dealing with these troublesome students. Ha ha. Good, good. Then I will trouble Teacher Feng with my son. I also asked Teacher Feng to take care of him. Chapter 1045. Luo Fei swept a glance at Fengjiu, snorted, turned his head, and said, I don't intend to go with him to gain experience. Besides, if he says he's a mentor, then why is he a mentor? As his voice fell, his eyes flashed. He turned his head to look at Fengjiu, and then said to his father and mother, Father, Mother, you don't know? This Fengjiu is not a mentor hired by the academy. He slightly raised his chin and looked at Fengjiu provocatively. He felt that he had seen through his mask and continued. He was originally a student of a 6-star academy and had come to participate in the academy's ranking, but he was lucky enough to advance to the Golden Core stage in the Holy Land, so he was deprived of the qualifications to participate. The dean of the academy made an exception to let a student of a 6-star academy become a mentor, but for him, the students of a 2-star academy are not convinced. They were students of a 2-star academy, which one of them was the most beautiful person in their family, especially the 4 of them. Even the mentors of the academy had to give them face and did not dare to offend them easily. Even if they did not go to the academy, the mentors would not dare to say anything to them. However, this kid who was suddenly promoted from a 6-star academy actually said that he was the mentor of the 4 of them. This was really a joke. How could they agree? Fine. Even if Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Song Ming agreed, he would absolutely not agree. His brain was much smarter than the 3 of them and would not be easily fooled. Hearing these words, the Luo clan's head's face darkened. He stared at his son and immediately slammed his hand on the table, making a loud sound, and at the same time shouted, Young Master Feng has already told us about this matter. So what if he is from a 6-star academy? Do you have the strength of a Golden Core stage like him? Or are you smarter than him? If you don't know anything, then don't talk nonsense. You really don't know any rules. Luo Fei's mouth moved. His face was stunned. He did not expect that his father would suddenly reprimand him. This made him startled, and at the same time angry. He wanted to say something, but seeing his mother shaking her head at him, he had no choice but to endure. Ha ha ha, young master Feng. My son has been spoiled. If he is rude, I hope you don't take offense. Saying that, he stood up and said with a smile, Young Master Feng, everyone, please come to the backyard for dinner. Knowing that you are coming, my wife ordered people to prepare a banquet to entertain you. In the future, my son, I will have to trouble you to take care of him. The others also stood up and responded with a smile. Only then did they walk out together with the husband and wife. Even if he did not want to cause trouble, he would not dare to cause any trouble, so he also followed behind them. When he arrived there, he rolled his eyes and personally went to the wine cellar to get a jar of wine. When he arrived at the banquet, everyone was already seated and chatting. The wine had already been poured, so he put the wine to the side. During the banquet, everyone was talking and laughing, and the wine was unceasingly poured, until as the night deepened, he came forward with the wine jug and personally poured wine for Feng Jiu and the others, while saying, Minter Feng, I have offended you before. I apologize to you here. Please drink 3 cups with me. Feng Jiu looked at him, standing in front of him with the wine jug, and said with a smile, How can a small wine cup be enough? How about this? Let's drink 3 bowls with a bowl. Chapter 1046. Wine bowls were wide mouths and thick bottoms. They were used for drinking wine. However, wine bowls were rarely used. Now that he shouted, the servant girl hurriedly brought 2 wine bowls over and placed them in front of the 2 of them. Luo Fei put down the wine jug and walked to the table to pour wine for the 2. Please. He put down the wine jug and raised the wine bowl. Feng Jiu raised the wine bowl and toasted him, then downed the wine in the bowl. When the wine entered her mouth, her eyes flashed and a faint smile appeared on her lips. Again, he was overjoyed and shouted. He poured another bowl and continued to drink. The bystanders saw the 2 of them drinking continuously and downing it in one gulp. They could not help but look at each other. Madame Luo was a little worried. Drinking like this is too harmful to the body. It's fine, I don't drink like this often. Luo Fei waved his hand. After 2 bowls of wine, he was already a little tipsy. However, he still poured a 3rd bowl of wine. Instructor Feng, this bowl is for you. In the future, if I do anything wrong, please forgive me. Feng Jiu curled his lips. No problem. He then drank the 3rd bowl. Duan Yi and the other 2 looked at each other. They felt that Luo Fei would not submit to him just like that. There was probably something fishy going on in these 3 bowls of wine. However, even so, the 3 of them did not intend to interfere. As the saying goes, evil people will be dealt with by evil people. All right, although it was not good to use this saying to describe the 2 of them, Luo Fei, the little fox, could only admit defeat when he met the 2-faced Feng Jiu. If he did not submit, Feng Jiu had his ways to tame him. As he said earlier, he was a troublemaker. After the banquet, everyone was drunk and ended. Under Madame Luo's orders, everyone was helped back to their rooms to rest. Patriarch Luo and Madame Luo truly enjoyed this banquet. As for Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Song Ming, they had accompanied Feng Jiu here to watch the show. Therefore, it would be better to say that they were pretending to be drunk. Luo Fei, on the other hand, had planned to get Feng Jiu drunk. However, he did not expect that he would end up getting himself drunk. Feng Jiu saw that he wanted to get her drunk, so she did as he wished. She drank cup after cup of wine. In the end, her eyes became a little blurry, and her face became a little blushed. Her footsteps were also a little light, and she staggered back with the help of the maidservants. However, with the end of the banquet, everyone returned to their rooms. On the other side, Luo Fei, who had returned to his residence, drank the hangover soup brought by the attendant and gradually sobered up. Young master. The attendant looked at him and smiled. How long have I been back? He rubbed his forehead. It hurt a little. Young master instructed me to prepare a hangover soup and wait for him. Therefore, from the moment he returned to the moment he drank the hangover soup to the moment he woke up, less than an hour had passed. He replied and stood up with the help of the attendant. When he walked outside, he called out, and 2 cultivators appeared in front of him. Young master. The two of them bowed respectfully. Go, put a gunny sack on the brat in the guest room and throw him into the brothel. Tell them to take good care of him. He revealed a malicious smile and laughed softly. He thought, if he woke up drunk tomorrow and found out that he was in the brothel, how interesting would his face be? Chapter 1047. Just as the two cultivators responded and left, Luo Fei waved his hand. You can leave now. Don't disturb me. I want to sleep. I'll sleep until tomorrow morning before going to watch the show. As he spoke, he turned around and entered his room. Just as he was about to close the door, he seemed to have thought of something and turned back with a chuckle. If I still haven't woken up tomorrow, and they're still looking for that red-robe brat, you can tell them that he felt lonely last night and said he wanted to take a walk around the brothel. Do you understand? The attendant replied with a grin. Don't worry, young master. I understand. Only then did Luo Fei enter his room in satisfaction. He hummed a little tune as he walked towards his bed. However, before he could lie down on the bed, his vision turned black and he fell unconscious. A red figure caught him and brought him out in a flash. Returning to his own room, in the guest room, the red-robed Fengjiu's body swayed slightly. He poured himself a cup of water and drank it. After closing the window, he blew out the lights in the room and staggered towards his bed. The two cultivators who had been watching outside for a while looked at each other. After confirming that they didn't get the wrong person, they waited until the room was completely silent before quietly entering the room. They felt their way in and entered the room in the dark. One of them lifted the blanket while the other directly threw a sack over the person on the bed. They were afraid that the noise would alarm the others and even chopped at the back of the person's neck, knocking him unconscious before carrying him away. The two cultivators didn't see that after they quietly left the room, a figure walked out from a dark corner of the room and stared at the person being carried away by the sack with a faint smile. Fengjiu yawned and rubbed his neck before lying down on the bed. Now, he could finally have a comfortable sleep. As for what would happen to Luo Fei, who was carried away tonight, she wouldn't care. Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Song Ming knew that tonight would not be a peaceful night. Therefore, they pretended to be drunk and waited to see what would happen tonight. They were originally staying in the same courtyard as Fengjiu, only in different rooms. Thus, they blew out the lights and gathered in the same room. In the pitch-black room, they watched as the two cultivators groped their way into Fengjiu's room. Not long after, they saw them come out with a sack. The three of them couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. You put him in a sack and carried him away? Ning Lang asked in astonishment. Song Ming rubbed his chin. Fengjiu shouldn't have fallen for it so easily. If even we can see it, there's no way he can't see it. Yes. Also, did you notice? I haven't seen that cloud-devouring beast since it came back. I don't know where it went. Yes, this feeling is just like... Ning Lang thought for a moment and scratched his head. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh. Right? Just like last time, he dug a hole for me to jump into. Hearing this, Duan Yi glanced at him. That's because you dug a hole for yourself. What did he dig a hole for you? Also, with your brain, there's really no need for him to dig a hole for you. Hearing this, Ning Lang was unhappy. What do you mean with my brain? My brain is a business brain that makes money. You can't have it even if you want it. Seeing that the two of them were quarreling, Song Ming rubbed his forehead helplessly and said, All right, why are you two quarreling? This matter has nothing to do with you. Anyway, tell me, is the person being carried away Fengjiu? Chapter 1048. After a moment of silence, Ning Lang said, I don't think it's him. Fengjiu is a black-bellied person. He's good at scheming against people. How could he be so easily tricked? Don't you think so? If it's not him, then who could it be? Although that person was in a gunny sack, we could still tell that it was a person and not something else. As Song Ming spoke, he seemed to have thought of something and shock appeared on his face. Just as he was about to speak, Duan Yi beside him spoke first. If that person isn't Fengjiu, then it's Luo Fei. As soon as these words were spoken, the three people couldn't help but gasp and widen their eyes. Heavens, it can't really be Luo Fei, right? For a moment, The three people's 9 eyes widened in the pitch-black room, their faces full of disbelief. If this person was Luo Fei, then how did Fengjiu know that Luo Fei would send someone to carry him away? Could it be that he went to Luo Fei's room after returning to his room, heard Luo Fei's words, then knocked Luo Fei unconscious and brought him back, directly switching the dragon into the phoenix? But was that possible? Even if Fengjiu's cultivation was at the golden core stage, there were no lack of powerful people in the Luo residence. They could believe that he could come and go as he pleased in here. After all, his movement technique was very strange and miraculous. But if he was carrying someone and had to avoid the sight of the hidden guards in the residence, then it wasn't simple. Furthermore, thinking that Luo Fei might really have been switched by Fengjiu, the three people's expressions couldn't help but become strange. Say, where do you think they took him away to? Ning Lang asked curiously, a hint of excitement appearing in his eyes. Could he have been taken away to be sold? Duan Yi looked at the two of them and said, they haven't gone far yet. Why don't we follow them and take a look? As soon as these words were spoken, Ning Lang and Song Ming's eyes lit up and they immediately agreed. All right, let's go and take a look. Let's go. Thus, the three of them quietly left the room and followed the three people at this moment. The two cultivators who carried the gunny sack out of Luo Yi still didn't know that they had mistaken the person, or rather, they didn't know that the person they were carrying had long been replaced by their young master. Where are they going? It's so late at night, and you're still taking the small path. Behind them, the three of them followed from a distance to avoid being discovered. They watched as the two men carried the sacks and walked until they reached a certain place. When they entered, the three of them stuck close to the wall and saw the words written there. They couldn't help but open their mouths and stare dumbfoundedly. It can't be. Is this delivered to the cafe? The three looked at each other with strange expressions. It must be Luo Fei. Shall we go in and take a look? Duan Yi looked at the two of them and asked, let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, the three of them walked forward together and quietly entered the room. They just happened to see that the two cultivators had already turned around and left. Thus, they went to the window of the room and peeked inside through the slit of the window. Inside, a madam in her 30s gestured. Open the sack. I want to see how the free goods look like. Yes. The two burly men answered and opened the sack, revealing the unconscious youth inside. When the three of them outside the window saw the unconscious person, they really felt a sense of schadenfreude in their hearts. Even though they had long guessed that the person in the sack was Luo Fei, when they saw that he wanted to prank Fengjiu, but ended up being pranked by that black-bellied person instead, they really sympathized with him. Chapter 1049. After watching for a while, the three of them left quietly. Luo Fei had schemed against Fengjiu, so they didn't dare to stand up for him. Otherwise, they might be implicated. On the way back, Ning Lang looked at the moon and sighed. I suddenly feel that Fengjiu is really good to me. At least, he was only threatened to be sold to the brothel, but he wasn't actually sold to the brothel. Duan Yi agreed. Compared to you guys, he's the best to me because I'm willing to go with him. I don't have as many twists and turns as you guys. He also realized that if he was obedient, he wouldn't be punished. If he was too rebellious, the consequences would be unimaginable. Moreover, Fengjiu wouldn't give you any face when he did things that others didn't dare to do. Others might be apprehensive of their status, but Fengjiu wouldn't. He had seen this clearly during their journey. The three of them chatted as they walked. When they returned to the courtyard, they glanced at the tightly shut door and the pet guarding outside. They couldn't help but feel their hearts skip a beat. They were sure that Fengjiu was sleeping inside. He was the only one who could sleep so comfortably after tricking others. The three of them laughed in their hearts and returned to their rooms. They planned to see what would happen the next morning. However, to their surprise, when they washed up and went out the next morning, they saw Fengjiu sitting in the courtyard eating breakfast. He said to them, "Say goodbye to Master Luo and the rest after breakfast." Leaving? So soon? The three of them looked at him in surprise. Actually, they wanted to ask, Luo Fei isn't back yet. Is he really leaving? What? Are you guys addicted to staying here? He glanced at them with a half-smile. Haha, of course not. The three of them laughed awkwardly and hurriedly sat down to eat. Then, they followed him to the front yard to say goodbye to Master and Master Luo. Leaving? You just came yesterday, and you're leaving today? Won't you stay for a few more days? Master Luo was stunned when he heard their words. Seeing this, Madame Luo looked at them and said, It's rare for friends to come to the house. You guys should stay for a few more days. Fei, hasn't brought you around the city yet. If you leave like this, we'll feel a little embarrassed. We feel like we can't greet you. No, it's just that we can't stay here for long. Feng Jiu said with a smile. It's been a while since I've been out. Today, I'm here to bid you all farewell. I'll be taking Luo Fei with me. Fei also wants to go with you? He's willing to go with you? Madame Luo was surprised. Hearing this, Duan Yi and the others smiled and didn't say anything. Feng Jiu chuckled and looked at the three people beside him. He said, the three of them were unwilling at first. What he meant was that even if she was unwilling now, she would eventually become obedient as time went by. Seeing this, the Luo clan couple was stunned, and then they looked at each other and said with a smile, That's fine. Then let him go with you. If he can be your companion, we can rest assured. This kid, why hasn't he woken up yet? Master Luo saw that it was getting late, but he didn't see his son, so he called out, Housekeeper, call the young master over. Chapter 10:50. Hearing this, the Luo couple felt strange but did not ask further. They knew that Feng Jiu and the rest would not harm their son. Thus, Madame Luo smiled and nodded. Then I'll prepare some dry rations and fruits for you to eat on the way. Feng Jiu and the rest did not refuse this and chatted with Patriarch Luo as they waited. After an hour, they left the Luo residence under the Luo couple's escort. After they left, Patriarch Luo called for Luo Fei's servant and asked about the situation. After hearing what had happened, both of them were stunned, especially Patriarch Luo, who laughed out of anger. That brat, he's always thinking of such evil ideas. Great, now that he's fallen into young Master Feng's hands, let's see how he can still be so arrogant. Humph, only people like him can temper his spirit. No, this won't be. Madame Luo was worried. Why was he sent to such a place? Fei really shouldn't have done this. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Since young Master Feng is a teacher, he will know his limits. He told me that Fei will be back in a year. All right, let's go back. As he spoke, he brought her inside. At the same time, on the other side, Luo Fei, who had woken up in the middle of the night, screamed when he saw the transparent gauze on his body and the large underpants on his body. However, when he opened his mouth to scream, he realized that he could not make a sound. Furthermore, his strength had been sealed. No one tied him up, and he was locked in a room with guards all around him. When he tried to escape, he was caught and brought back. In the end, when he finally found out where he was, his expression turned ugly. Small brothel? How could it be a small brothel? He clearly asked the guards to bring Feng Jiu here. How did he end up here? Furthermore, why couldn't he make a sound? Furthermore, his strength and cultivation had been sealed. Were they trying to make him lose his virginity? Thinking about this place, and then thinking about how he was locked up in here with only his underwear and could be arranged to meet guests at any time, goosebumps couldn't help but rise up at the thought of that scene. It was too disgusting. How could he be the one facing such a situation? Damn Feng Jiu. He must have played some dirty trick, but now, how is he going to escape? Tell them that he was the young master of the Luo family? Who would believe that? Master Huang is here to see the new goods. Go, bring the youth out, and let Master Huang take a look. Hearing the voice from outside, Luo Fei's face pale, and he quickly retreated to find a place to escape. However, the doors and windows were all sealed. If he had his strength, it would be fine, but now that his strength and cultivation had been sealed, he was like a powerless commoner. There was no way to escape. It's over, I'm lose. Damn Feng Jiu. If I lose my virginity, I'll never. The door opened and two big men walked in. Let's go. There are guests in front. When Luo Fei saw this, he immediately threw himself onto the bed and covered his head with the blanket, refusing to go out no matter what. Take a one go. Go. Let me go. You dare make me meet guests? I'll skin you alive. Chapter 1051. When he was brought to the front of a fat, middle-aged man, Luo Fei's head popped out from under the blanket. When he saw the middle-aged man, his eyes widened. He looks quite similar to that Luo family brat. As the middle-aged man spoke, he stepped forward to take a closer look at Luo Fei. When the procuress heard this, she covered her mouth and giggled. How could that be? He's just a little mute, he can't speak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been sold here. Oh, a little mute? Ha, good. Just based on this face that is similar to the Luo family's boy, I will buy him today. Later, send him to my residence. Remember, it's still the same old rules. He instructed the procuress at the side. Don't worry, Master Huang. We know what to do. The procuress smiled and walked out with them, instructing them to bring Luo Fei back. Luo Fei struggled, but was wrapped up in a blanket and carried away. He knew that old bastard. Last month, he'd taught him a lesson. He didn't expect to meet that old thing here. When he thought of this place and their words, he began to panic. Without strength, without help, and without even being able to speak, he didn't know what to do. He'd originally thought that he'd take the opportunity to teach Fengjiu a lesson and make him retreat. He'd know that he, Luo Fei, wasn't easy to fool. Who knew that he'd end up in this situation? When he thought of Duan Yi and the other strange expressions when he said he'd teach Fengjiu a lesson, he gritted his teeth. Those fellows already knew that Fengjiu wouldn't do anything, but they didn't warn me. They're too disloyal. But he didn't think that he'd underestimated Fengjiu. He'd assumed that someone from a 6th class academy wouldn't be able to subdue him and didn't have any ability. That was why he'd ended up in this situation. In his panic, he'd been brought back. He'd been forced to take a bath and put on a new set of clothes. However, those clothes were even more embarrassing than being naked. His face had turned red, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He was determined to tear down this shabby tavern. On the other side, after leaving the Luo family, Duan Yi and the others suddenly realized that Tun Yun had not been seen since morning. Thus they asked, Fengjiu, where's your little beast? Why isn't he with you? I told her to keep an eye on Luo Fei. She walked leisurely with a sly smile on her lips. I wonder how that brat is doing now. How curious. However, would anyone take a fancy to someone like him? Hearing this, the three of them looked at each other, and the corners of their mouths twitched. This Fengjiu has such a wicked taste. From the look on his face, it was as if he was hoping that someone would take a fancy to Luo Fei. They even had a feeling that even if there wasn't, he would add fuel to the fire from behind and turn it into something. Cough. Song Ming coughed lightly and said, Luo Fei grew up in this place. Everyone with some status in this area knows him. Perhaps someone has recognized his identity. Would someone with status go to tavern? Fengjiu asked. His voice paused for a moment, and he said somewhat carelessly, Moreover, I sealed his strength and cultivation, so he can't speak. Chapter 1052. When they arrived, they did not enter through the main door. Instead, they snuck in and found the cloud-swallowing beast lying on the roof. Naturally, they knew which room Luo Fei was in. When the cloud-swallowing beast saw Fengjiu, it stood up and wagged its tail at her like a puppy, expressing its joy. Seeing this, Fengjiu pulled the cloud into her arms. When the others lifted the roof tiles and saw Luo Fei tied up on the bed, they could not help but smile gloatingly. Under Fengjiu's signal, they knocked out the two guards and pushed open the door. Duan Yi and Ning Lang guarded the door, while Fengjiu and Song Ming walked in. Luo Fei, why are you here? I've been looking for you for a long time. As Fengjiu spoke, she looked as if she had been looking for him for a long time. I didn't see you when I woke up this morning. I thought you were hiding to avoid me and didn't want to leave with us. However, looking at you, it seems that I was overthinking things. As she said this, the smile on her lips widened uncontrollably. She looked at the young man who was tied up like a dumpling with a red face, glaring at her with shame and indignation. She smiled happily, her gaze sizing him up. With a face full of curiosity, she asked, "That's right. Why are you dressed like this? This gauze is so thin, it's like you're not wearing anything. Can you go out like this? You don't seem to be able to speak. Or are you embarrassed to say it?" She smiled and narrowed her eyes. "You don't have to be like this. I'm your teacher after all. If you have something to say, just say it. There's no need to be embarrassed." The corner of Song Ming's mouth twitched, and he looked away. He felt that Luo Fei was too pitiful. He was tied up and thrown on the bed, and he was even wearing such a strange gauze. It was simply impossible to look at him directly. It was too damaging to his image. "That's right, we're leaving. Do you want to come with us?" she asked with a smile. When she saw that he could not speak, she patted her head and said, "I remember now. It's okay if you can't speak. If you want to come with me, you can nod. If you don't want to, just shake your head. Your head can still move, right? You can still move your head." Hearing this, Luo Fei felt terrible. What did he mean by his head could still move? What would happen if he couldn't move? Also, he didn't believe that Fengjiu didn't know how he ended up like this. After thinking about it, other than him, no one else would do this to him. Now, he even wanted to threaten him and force him to leave with him. This Fengjiu was too evil. "How is it? Do you need to think about it? If you need it, I can give you some time." The implication was that if he did not agree to go with them, then they would have to leave. As for what would happen in the end, it was none of their business. Luo Fei gritted his teeth. Unable to speak, he was really afraid. He hurriedly nodded, afraid that they would really leave. If he stayed here, it would be really troublesome. "Follow me." Fengjiu raised his eyebrows, but he was not surprised. After seeing him nod again, Fengjiu revealed a satisfied smile and motioned to Song Ming beside him. "Bring him along. Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, the dazzling red figure had already walked out. Chapter 1053. The few of them followed Fengjiu out of the city. When they saw a luxurious flying ship appear in front of them with a wave of his hand, they could not help but widen their eyes. Ning Lang's eyes especially brightened. He quickly ran forward and touched the luxurious flying ship, exclaiming in amazement, "Oh my God, this flying ship is so beautiful. Even the one at home is not as luxurious as this. Fengjiu, where did you buy this flying ship? It's so beautiful." He cried out in surprise as he touched it. He could not see the interior of the ship, so he turned back to look at Fengjiu. "Fengjiu, can we go up now? You're too mean. Why didn't you take out such a treasure earlier?" She smiled. "Let's go." Then, she walked forward with Tunyan. The others quickly followed her into the flying ship. Only Luo Fei, who was being carried and unable to speak, glared and struggled to kick his legs. Was he going to take him away? He had only agreed to calm him down and think of a solution after leaving. He did not expect him to take him out of the city and even get such a flying ship. Was he not planning to let him go home? There were people who entered the city from outside. When they saw such a flying ship parked outside the city, they naturally discussed and exclaimed in amazement. They were all guessing which aristocratic family this person belonged to. How could there be such a luxurious flying ship? Even some aristocratic families and forces in the city sent people to investigate after hearing the news. However, by the time they arrived, Fengjiu and the others had already left in the Luo residence. Master Luo and Madame Luo were talking in the courtyard when they heard the luxurious flying ship outside the city. That was until the housekeeper ran in. "Master, Madam, this is a letter from Madam's family." The housekeeper presented a letter before retreating. "It must be a letter from your mother-in-law." "Madam, take a look," Master Luo said with a smile and handed the letter to her. "All right." Madame Luo accepted it with a smile. She opened the letter and saw that there was a folded portrait inside. She handed the portrait to her husband beside her and read the letter herself. "This is a letter from my father. He said that he sent us a portrait of the ghost doctor. He said that the patriarchs of the aristocratic families and forces all have one." "A portrait of the ghost doctor?" Master Luo was startled and quickly opened the portrait. He could not help but be startled. Isn't this young Master Feng? Madame Luo's head. It really is young Master Feng. How did he become the ghost doctor? The husband and wife looked at each other, their hearts filled with astonishment. That reckless red-clothed youth was actually the ghost doctor. Of the ghost master. Could it be that this matter was really like what he had said at that time? That he was originally a 6-star student, and after coming to a 2-star academy because of a chance encounter, he was promoted to a 2-star instructor? Our Fei is truly blessed. Patriarch Luo laughed. That's right. Madame Luo replied happily. And, Luo, of us? How can you do this? You actually took me away like this. If your parents can't find me, they will be worried. Chapter 1054. How is that possible? My parents would never agree to it. When he said these words, he was somewhat lacking in confidence. His parents were very appreciative of this Feng Jiao, especially after knowing that he was an instructor of a 2-star academy. They were extremely relieved. It was really possible that what he had said was true, that his parents had agreed to forcibly take him away. How is it impossible? Look, these pastries and fruits were prepared for us by your mother. Ninglang ate the fruit and asked, Do you want one? Hearing this, Luo Fei glared at him. Do you think I can eat it now? When they heard this, they glanced at him and thought of his day and night's experience and couldn't help but grin. Well, you shouldn't be able to eat it. I'm going to rest. Don't disturb me if there's nothing. Feng Jiao said, got up and walked to the room in the cabin. However, when she took a step, Luo Fei blocked her way. She raised her eyebrows, looked at the angry Luo Fei in front of her, and asked, Do you still have something to say? I want to get off the ship. I want to go home. Did you forget your answer and come with me? She looked at him, her eyes flashing with an inexplicable light. Luo Fei's eyes flashed, and he argued, I only promised to go out with you. I didn't say I would get on your pirate ship. She curled her lips. Don't you know that it's easy to get on the ship, but hard to get off? Do you think I'll let you get off my pirate ship? As soon as her voice fell, she stepped forward. Luo Fei wanted to say something more, but Ninglang pressed on his shoulder and dragged him to the side. After Feng Jiao went in, they sat around him. Don't even think about it. Once you're on his ship, unless he allows you to get off, you can't get off. That's right, and I don't think there's anything wrong with his ship. Do you know how many people want to get on this ship but don't have the chance? Song Ming said, looking at him as if he didn't know what was good for him. If you continue to struggle, you'll be the only one suffering. Duan Yi said, glancing at him. He has 100 ways to fix you and make you obedient. Do you believe it? Or do you want to taste them one by one before you believe me? Listening to their words, he was reminded of what had happened before. Ever since he met Feng Jiao, he had never been able to gain the upper hand. He couldn't help but grit his teeth and ask, Then where are we going? You have to let me know, right? Hearing this, the three of them looked at each other and smiled. The Hell Mountain Range. Luo Fei cried out involuntarily. Hell Mountain Range? Heavens, it can't be, right? That place is like hell. Once you enter, you won't be able to leave. Are you trying to send us to our deaths? The 1-year experience will be there. Moreover, Feng Jiao will only take us for a year. Whether you like it or not, it's a year's time. After a year, even if we want to follow him, he won't agree. Song Ming said slowly. He knew in his heart that after a year, Feng Jiao wouldn't take them with him. After all, with his reputation as the ghost doctor, there were too many people who wanted to follow him. It was estimated that this time, if he didn't feel that he was in the wrong for what he had done in the 2-star academy, perhaps he wouldn't have agreed to take them to the Hell Mountain Range. Chapter 1055. Hearing this, Luo Fei felt strange when he saw their expressions. Even if they were subdued by Feng Jiao, they shouldn't be like this, right? Did they mean that they couldn't bear to part with him after a year? Although he was confused, he didn't ask further. Instead, he nudged Ninglang with his elbow. Where are the pastries my mother prepared? Take them out for me to eat. Ninglang grinned. Didn't you say you didn't want them? I thought you couldn't eat them. I haven't eaten anything since last night. If you give me a big meal, I can eat them all. Hurry up, stop dawdling, he said impatiently. Seeing this, Ning Lang took out 2 boxes of pastries and some fruits for him. Eat. They're from your family anyway. The few of them sat together and ate as they chatted. They told Luo Fei about how they were abducted by Fengjiu. Luo Fei felt good when he heard this. He thought to himself, so I'm not the only one like this. The few of us were taught a lesson too. Thinking of this, his originally sullen mood also eased up, and he chatted and laughed with a few of them along the way. The speed of the flying ship was extremely fast, but even so, it took them half a month to reach the forest outside the Hell Mountain Range. That evening, they alighted from the spaceship. After Fengjiu kept the spaceship, he didn't bring them into the forest. Instead, he said to the few of them, "We'll rest here tonight and discuss what to do after we enter the forest. You guys prepare a fire and hunt some game nearby to roast for dinner." Then he instructed, "The 4 of you will split into 2 teams. Two to a team. From now on, get used to working together. Then who will team up with whom? Do we do it ourselves?" Ning Lang asked. Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at the 4 of them and divided them. Duan Yi and Luo Fei will team up. You and Song Ming will team up. I'll be the leader of each team. Now, Duan Yi and Luo Fei will hunt for game. The 2 of you will set up a tent, collect branches, and start a fire. Got it. The few of them answered and quickly divided the work. Before the sky turned dark, they finished preparing everything. After handling the game, they placed it on the fire rack to roast. The few of them sat around and chatted. After you enter, forget your identities. Don't mention your identities so easily. You must know that in a place like that, the strength of those who enter is absolutely formidable. You must be careful in everything you do. If you show off too much, you will only become the target of robbery and assassination. Do you understand? Hearing Fengjiu's words, the 4 nodded and replied in a low voice, understood. This was a matter of life and death, and in a place like the Hell Mountain Range, they would naturally be cautious. She glanced at them and said, "Remember, don't stray too far from me. Otherwise, I won't be able to save you even if you're in danger." "Yes, we know." The 4 of them replied again. "This is a distress signal for you, just in case." She distributed the smoke grenades to the 4 of them and said, "Put away all your belongings. Remember, don't show off your wealth. Just put the things you need in the Chinquin pouch around your waist. You must hide a dagger in your boots." Chapter 10:56. As night fell, the aroma of barbecued meat spread out. The few of them were eating and chatting when they suddenly heard something. They quickly reacted and looked around vigilantly. I didn't think there would be people here. Are you guys also going to the Hell Mountain Range?" The 2 people who came were 2 strong men wearing mercenary uniforms. One was at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. The other was at the Golden Core stage. The one who spoke was the Golden Core stage mercenary. Seeing the people staring at them cautiously, the 2 mercenaries smiled brightly and said, "Don't worry, we are mercenaries from the Mercenary Union. This time, we were hired to protect our employer and came to the Hell Mountain Range. We just happened to be camping in this area. When we saw the fire here, we came to take a look." "I see." Fengjiu nodded and didn't say anything else. The 2 people who came closer then noticed that the people here were all teenagers, and they weren't very strong. They couldn't help but be surprised. "Are you guys going to the Hell Mountain Range? Why isn't anyone accompanying you?" "Aren't we people?" Ning Lang said unhappily. Don't misunderstand. What I mean is that the Hell Mountain Range is not ordinary. I see that you're all at the Foundation establishment stage. With your cultivation, if you don't have a strong person to lead you, it's best not to enter the Hell Mountain Range. Otherwise, you may not be able to come out. Thank you for your kindness. We're used to it." Hearing this, the 2 mercenaries knew that they weren't welcome, so they smiled and cupped their hands. "Then we won't disturb you any longer. Goodbye." Saying this, they turned and left. Seeing them leave, Song Ming walked a distance before coming back and saying, "They're gone. And there are indeed people camping nearby. There are at least 30 to 40 people. It's not a small group." Yes, the Hell Mountain Range is also known as the Land of Death. The dangers inside are naturally not a problem. Fengjiu nodded and looked at the people, saying, "When you enter, you must listen to my orders. Don't make decisions on your own. Unless it's absolutely necessary, don't fight with others." "Yes, we know." The people nodded in response. Duan Yi and Luo Fei will keep watch at night. You can switch them out in the second half of the night. It's the same when you're inside. When you're resting, you must have someone standing guard in the surroundings. She instructed again. Thus, after eating, they divided the leftover roast meat into 5 portions and distributed them to the 5 of them. Only then did they prepare to rest and let 2 of them take turns to keep watch. Until the next morning, when the sky had just brightened, the few of them got up and prepared before heading into the forest. Even the forest in front of them was overgrown with weeds that were about half a person's height. They couldn't even see the road clearly when they walked on it. The ground wasn't made of hard sand or stone, but rather there was plenty of water in the forest. The soil on the ground was relatively soft, and when they stepped on it, their footsteps would sink slightly. There was also a damp smell in the air. After walking for a while, Song Ming, who was in front, said, "This road seems to have been walked by someone. The grass in front is bent, and there are many footprints on the ground. This forest is the only way to get to the Hell Mountain Range. It's normal for someone to walk through it." Fengjiu said and looked up. He saw that the leaves above his head were so lush that he couldn't see the sky. The air here was cool, and the sun couldn't shine in. Moreover, the surroundings looked the same. It was easy to get lost in here. Chapter 10:57. Let's walk from the top. Her gaze fell on the branches, and she said, "If we use the branches to move, our speed will be much faster." As soon as she finished speaking, she leaped up lightly and landed on a branch, looking down at the few people below. Seeing this, the few of them followed suit and leaped up lightly. Even Tun Yun followed beside them, imitating them to move between the branches. Just as Feng Jiu said, flying with the help of the branches was faster. On one hand, they didn't have to avoid the weeds below, and they didn't have to carefully explore the path. On the other hand, they could also use the elastic force between the branches to jump. In addition, they weren't a large team, but only a small group of 5 people. It was indeed suitable for this method of flying. In the forest, the red figure led the way in front, followed closely by the 4 people and 1 beast. They moved easily, and their speed was much faster than those who walked on foot. When it was close to noon, they passed through the forest and arrived at the foot of the Hell Mountain Range. However, when they arrived, their hearts skipped a beat and they were slightly nervous. Looks like this is the right place. But why are there so many cultivators here? Moreover, how are we going to get to this place? Ning Lang looked at the cultivators who were either sitting, standing, or resting on the branches in front of them and could not help but gulp. Almost as soon as they appeared here, the people there looked at them. Pairs of eyes sized them up blatantly, as if they were evaluating their strength. They could not help but feel their scalps go numb, as if they were being stared at by hungry wolves. Most of the cultivators seemed to be itinerant cultivators. Apart from itinerant cultivators, there were also some who looked ferocious and murderous, like desperados. Moreover, there were also some who were evil cultivators, and there were more than 1 or 2 of them. Instead, they were in groups of more than 10 people. There were also some groups that seemed to be formed by clans. There were about 50 to 60 people, and the average age of the group looked to be in their 20s or 30s. Apart from the leader who was at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm, the rest of the people were generally at the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. From the perspective of these people, the appearance of the 5 teenagers here was very strange. It was no wonder that when they appeared here, pairs of eyes stared at the 5 of them and the beast, sizing them up. Teenagers with Foundation Establishment cultivation base, and there were only 5 of them. Coming to a place like this was akin to sending themselves to their deaths. Apart from Ning Lang, who felt a little apprehensive under the scrutiny of those people, the others did not change their expressions under so many people's scrutinizing gazes. After glancing at those people, Their gazes fell on a place in the air 100 meters in front of them. The edge of the cliff on this side of the forest was separated from the edge of the mountain on the other side by a cliff that was nearly 100 meters wide. There was nothing on either side of the cliff that could be used as a passageway. Furthermore, there was an enchantment that prohibited flying. Practitioners here could not ride their swords or fly over. Chapter 1058. There were no metal bridges or other things that could be used to cross the chasm. 100 meters was not a short distance. It was impossible to cross the chasm on one's own. Furthermore, there was no way to fly on a sword or use a flying device. Moreover, there seemed to be some kind of airflow surging up from the abyss. The whistling sound roared in the abyss, surging up from below and reverberating in the air. It was like the call of death, as if anyone who dared to pass through here would be swallowed up by the whistling airflow below. "Let's go take a look," Fengjiu said. His red figure jumped down from the tree and landed steadily on the ground. His red robes fluttered in the wind as he leisurely walked to the edge of the chasm under everyone's gaze. Duan Yi and the other two followed behind Feng Nine. Even Tun Yun, who looked like a little white ball, followed behind Feng Nine with its short legs. It raised its head proudly and swayed its fluffy tail, ignoring everyone's gazes as it walked. "How do we get there?" Duan Yi frowned and looked at Fengjiu. "This is the right path, right?" "Yes, this is the right place." She nodded and looked at the cliff in front of her. "However, this place is also an obstacle. Apart from isolating the ferocious beasts from the other side of the mountain range, this place is also a test for the cultivators here." She paused, and her lips curled. "If we can't even cross this chasm, what right do we have to enter the Hell Mountain range? But how are we going to cross this chasm? We don't even have a rope, let alone a bridge. We can't fly on a sword or use a flying device. We can't fly over by ourselves." Luo Fei glanced at the people around him. It seemed that they were also thinking of a way to cross the chasm. However, although the Hell Mountain range was dangerous, it did not mean that no one could cross it. Why did so many people stop here? "Kid, what are you looking at?" A ferocious-looking cultivator saw that Luo Fei was looking around, and he fiercely shouted. The pressure of a late Foundation establishment cultivator also attacked Luo Fei. "I was looking around. Where did I see you?" As Luo Fei spoke, he did not fear the other party's fierce gaze or threatening tone. Although he had promised Fengjiu that he would not cause trouble, he had not done anything, so naturally, he would not be bullied. There were so many people here, but that person didn't drink. Instead, he shouted at him. Wasn't he trying to use him as a stepping stone to show everyone that he wasn't someone to be trifled with? Needless to say, that was the cultivator's plan. Everyone had been here for a few days, and no one had thought of a way to get over, but they were unwilling to leave just like that. However, because the various forces and groups didn't seem to be easy to deal with, their group of rogue cultivators was the smallest, with only a dozen or so people. Therefore, they wanted to find someone to establish their might and intimidate everyone, so as to prevent others from targeting them. Because of this, they had their eyes on these youths who had just appeared here. These people were only in the building foundation stage, and they were all in their teens. They were inexperienced in the ways of the world. As long as they were properly threatened and intimidated and showed their savagery and bloodthirstiness, who would dare to target them? Chapter 1059. What did you say? Say it again if you have the guts. This was a person who was purely looking for trouble. He would not let go of such a small matter, deliberately using him to establish his power. Regarding this, some cultivators who understood the situation revealed looks of disdain. They couldn't do something like using a teenager to establish their authority. Seeing the other party coming forward aggressively, Luo Fei also became angry and asked in a bad mood, "What does what I say have to do with you? Did I step on your tail or scold your mother? Do you think I'm easy to bully because I'm young? You want to fight? If you want to fight, just say it. I'll accompany you. You're rebelling. How dare you talk to your grandfather like this?" That person shouted angrily. He reached out with one hand to grab Luo Fei's collar and lifted him up, while his other hand punched towards Luo Fei's face. "You son of a bitch. I'll teach you a good lesson today," Luo Fei cursed. He instantly dodged and attacked at the same time. Seeing this, the surrounding people were all interested. That big man was at the peak of the Foundation Establishment realm, but that young man was only at the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. He should not be a match for that big man. However, based on his courage to compete with that big man, many people had a whole new level of respect for him. Duan Yi and the other two wanted to go up and help, but were stopped by Fengjiu. He can handle it. Although Luo Fei's strength was only at the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, his combat strength was the type that increased when faced with a strong opponent. He might not be a match for that cultivator. Moreover, it was impossible for her to appear in everything here. As long as there was a chance, she would let them deal with the trouble they caused themselves. However, this battle was unavoidable. From the moment they came here and walked out, they had already noticed that it was unavoidable, who looked weak and easy to bully in front of them. Since that was the case, they could only let strength speak. That cultivator wanted to use Luo Fei to establish his power. How could Luo Fei not have the same idea? Rather than being targeted again, it was better to take the initiative to attack. Moreover, using it under such circumstances was like using it in self-defense. The meaning was obvious. As long as you don't provoke me, I won't provoke you even if I'm strong. This was the purpose of this battle. Thus, he would not lose this battle. Instead, he would win. As long as he won, he would obtain the effect he wanted. Bang, bang, bang. Whoosh. The sound of fists colliding rang out, and the sharp sound of air currents surged around the two of them. The pressure of the Foundation Establishment stage emanated from their bodies, and, as they struck out with their fists, an air current that could be seen with the naked eye would also follow. Both of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators. One of them was at the peak of the Foundation Establishment stage, while the other was at the middle stage. Furthermore, the latter was only a teenager. When the crowd saw that the teenager was actually able to exchange blows with his opponent despite being one level lower in strength, and even seemed to be gaining the upper hand, shock appeared in their eyes. Some of the Golden Core cultivators could see that although the youth was young, his speed was extremely fast and his movements were ingenious. He was definitely not a disciple raised by an ordinary family. Furthermore, facing a cultivator at the peak of the Foundation Establishment stage, he was not afraid. Instead, he was full of fighting spirit and seemed to be getting more and more courageous. Bang! Chapter 1060. Seeing that the peak Foundation Establishment stage cultivator was no match for the mid-Foundation Establishment stage youth, many people's eyes flashed with surprise. They stared thoughtfully at the youth, not knowing what they were thinking. The burly man let out an angry roar and instantly drew the large blade at his waist to slash at Luo Fei. His attack was filled with killing intent and was aggressive, causing people to be unconsciously nervous. However, the young man also unsheathed the sword at his waist and attacked, exchanging blows with the burly man. When the sword and saber collided, a clear clanging sound could be heard. The swift and fierce sword chi and the powerful saber chi collided with each other, forming an air current in the air. It whistled past the two of them, cutting small wounds on their bodies. The smell of blood permeated the air until, with a loud clang, the two of them were repelled by the two air currents. The two figures lost their balance and staggered back until they were several meters away. Even so, it was difficult to tell who was winning. Even though Luo Fei had the upper hand in terms of speed, he was still unable to kill his opponent in one blow. This could not be considered a true victory. However, with his strength, he was able to fight against a peak Foundation Establishment stage cultivator. This was already enough to shock a portion of the people. Of course, the Golden Core stage cultivators were an exception. Seeing that Luo Fei still wanted to fight, Fengjiu said, "All right, don't waste your energy. Let's think about how to get to the other side." Hearing this, Luo Fei stared at the burly man for a moment before sheathing his sword and walking towards Fengjiu and the others. However, at this moment, the burly man saw Luo Fei sheathing his sword and walking towards the youths. Unable to quell the anger in his heart, he clenched his teeth and swung his large blade at Luo Fei's back. Seeing this, some cultivators from the aristocratic families frowned. Some disapproved and looked down on the burly man. However, they only frowned and did not say anything. They also did not help. This was because it was not a wise move to help a few youths who they did not know anything about and offend a group of ferocious cultivators. As for the evil cultivators and rogue cultivators, they would not help or warn them. They could not be bothered to care about the life and death of others. On the contrary, they were more than happy to see blood splatter all over the ground. Luo Fei, who was walking towards Fengjiu, did not expect the burly man to be so shameless. When he turned around to look, he saw that the burly man was already 3 steps away from him. The large saber that was raised and chopped down with a murderous aura, carrying with it a sharp and powerful pressure. It chopped down at a speed that was too fast for one to cover one's ears. Even if he wanted to dodge, under such circumstances, he could not react in time. He could only watch as the large saber chopped down. Duan Yi and the others were still 3 meters away from him. When they saw this scene, they sucked in a breath of air. Some were furious, while some were stunned. Even if they had taken action, they would not have been able to save him at that speed and at that distance. Therefore, their hearts were in their mouths as they cried out in alarm, "Be careful!" They hoped that he would be able to dodge in time. However, just as their voices fell, just as everyone saw the large saber chopping down and could see Luo Fei's head flying off and blood splattering all over the ground, a red figure shot out like lightning. Chapter 1061. His cry was filled with fear and shock. The burly man screamed as his entire body was kicked towards a cliff by a powerful force. He wanted to stop his body from flying, but he couldn't control the force and could only watch as he fell off the cliff. Save me! Save me! His shrill cry was accompanied by a plea for mercy as he fell from a high place into the abyss. His voice echoed and gradually disappeared into the air until it completely disappeared. This sudden scene stunned everyone. Almost at the same time, everyone around stood up, their eyes wide open as they looked at the handsome red-clothed youth who was flicking his robes. They couldn't believe that he had saved his companion so easily. Furthermore, he had acted so quickly at such a critical moment. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, they still felt that the scene before them was somewhat unbelievable. A cultivator at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage had been kicked off the cliff just like that and fell into the abyss. Luo Fei was stunned and only regained his senses after a long while. He stared blankly at Fengjiu, who was standing next to him and tidying her robes. The shock in his heart was difficult to calm down. He was the person involved, and at such a close distance, it could be said that no one present could understand the shock and stupefaction in his heart. At such a close distance, even he couldn't save himself, but Fengjiu was able to react extremely quickly and save him effortlessly. At this moment, his state of mind rose and fell like a stormy sea. His mind was completely blank. After a long while, he looked at Fengjiu, who was dressed in dazzling red robes, and said blankly, Thank you. Thank you for saving me." Hearing this, Fengjiu raised her eyes and glanced at him. "Go to the back." She gestured for him to walk to Duan Yi and the others. At this moment, the burly man's group finally regained their senses and stared at Fengjiu with murderous eyes. "Brat, you're pretty good." Fengjiu glanced at those people. There were more than a dozen of them, including a few Foundation establishment cultivators and a few Golden Core cultivators. Their strength was at the peak of the Golden Core realm, and they all reeked of blood. Obviously, their hands were stained with a lot of blood. "What? Only you're allowed to kill, but we're not allowed to fight back?" Her voice was cold, with a hint of laziness and coldness. It sounded like she didn't care much about this matter. However, Those who were familiar with her would know that she already had murderous intent. However, these people were not familiar with her and did not feel that these youths were much of a threat. Hence, when they saw that one of their men had lost his life after being kicked off the cliff by the Red Rogue youth, they naturally would not stop there. A group of more than a dozen fierce-looking brawny men surrounded them one by one, brandishing the swords and sabers at their waists. Their murderous aura surged, and a bloodthirsty killing intent pervaded the surroundings, attacking Fengjiu and the others. When the surrounding people saw this, they all retreated to the side. Among them, there were some people from aristocratic families who looked at the few youths with pity. They felt that it would be a pity if such outstanding youths were to die here. Chapter 1062. As the murderous intent in the air grew more intense, the surrounding people who had nothing to do with this began to retreat. Duan Yi and the others also walked up from behind and surrounded Fengjiu, preparing to fight by his side. Even though they knew that they were not the strongest here, they were not afraid to fight, especially against people who had come to bully them. Since they want to fight, then let's fight. In this world where power reigns supreme, power decides everything. As long as they win or use their powerful martial arts to intimidate them, these people would not dare to casually act as if they could kill them at will. Furthermore, Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Song Ming's eyes flickered slightly as they sized up these people, calculating in their hearts. If this had been the past, they would have been worried and afraid if they had encountered so many fierce-looking cultivators, including a few golden core cultivators. However, ever since they had fought side by side with Fengjiu to destroy the Joyous Union sect, and had seen how Fengjiu could even kill a nascent soul-old monster, they were not afraid of these golden core cultivators. This was because they knew very well that with Fengjiu's power and their combined strength, it would not be easy for these people to kill them. On the contrary, if they were to fight, they would have the opportunity to kill all of these people at any time. Among them, only Luo Fei did not know that Fengjiu and the others had fought against a nascent soul cultivator before, nor did he know of Fengjiu's identity as the Ghost Doctor. At this moment, when he saw the Golden Core cultivators leading the Foundation Establishment cultivators to surround them, he could not help but frown, and a grave look appeared in his eyes. His mind raced as he tried to think of a way to deal with this situation. However, just as the hostile atmosphere was about to erupt, a surprised voice was heard. It broke the tension in the air and attracted the attention of the people in the surroundings. What's going on? Are so many big guys bullying a few little kids? The astonished voice carried a trace of obvious mockery. The low voice was clear and bright, attracting Fengjiu and the others' attention. When they saw who it was, they could not help but be slightly surprised. It was the two mercenaries who they had met when they were camping out in the forest. "Ha ha, kid, we meet again. What a coincidence." The Peak Stage Gold Core cultivator waved his hand and greeted Fengjiu and the others. When he saw them surrounded by those fierce-looking burly men, the Peak Stage Gold Core mercenary grinned. "Looks like you guys are in trouble, but it makes sense. In a place like this, there are some people who specialize in bullying children and the weak. It's obvious that the few of you have both. Tell me, if they don't bully you, who will they bully?" Hearing this, Fengjiu and the others' mouths twitched, and black lines appeared on their foreheads. What was a child? How were they children? They were all adults? Okay. However, compared to those older people, they were indeed a little too young. However, there were both children and weaklings? What kind of taste did this guy have? How could he tell that they were weak? When a dozen or so fierce-looking burly men saw the two mercenaries talking to the youths, their faces immediately darkened. The Peak Gold Core cultivator in the lead gloomily stared at the two mercenaries and sneered sinisterly. Chapter 1063. Hearing this, the Golden Core mercenary laughed out loud when he saw the man's disdainful and gloomy gaze. "What do you mean by standing up for these kids? We just can't bear to see such big men like you bullying a few kids. However, from what you've said, it seems that you want to compete with us? Then let me remind you first. You can tell that we are mercenaries just by looking at our clothes. It's not just the two of us. On the other hand, you have to think carefully. Do you want to compete with us? If you do, our swords won't be retracted until there's blood. Hearing this blatant threat, the faces of the dozen or so people darkened. They stared at the two people and saw that their brows were filled with confidence. They didn't have the slightest bit of fear or cowardice. They couldn't help but ponder in their hearts. Mercenary teams usually had a few dozen people in a team. Furthermore, their strength wasn't weak. The two people who were sent to scout were probably not the strongest in the team. If that was the case, then, after thinking for a while, the Golden Core peak stage cultivator in the lead fiercely swept a glance at Fengjiu and the others. He snorted heavily. Brats, consider yourself lucky. However, you better pray that these mercenaries will always protect you. Otherwise, if we get the chance, you will definitely die without a burial ground. Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and glanced at that person. He couldn't be bothered to argue with him. She looked at the two mercenaries. Although she felt that they could deal with these people, since they had appeared to help them, she had to thank them. After all, there were so many people around, and only these two mercenaries whom they had met once stood up. Many thanks. She cupped her hands and thanked the two from afar. No need, no need. It's a small matter. The Golden Core cultivator waved his hand. The Foundation establishment cultivator beside him also grinned. However, why did you run ahead of us? Also, do you really intend to enter the Hell Mountain range? That place is not a place where you children can go to play. Listen to me and go home obediently. The Golden Core mercenary said, thinking that they were children who had sneaked out of home. It was likely that the few of them had gathered and snuck here. However, the Hell Mountain range was not a place where children like them could enter. If they went in, they would only die. Just look at the situation now. They hadn't even reached the other side yet, but they had already been targeted here and provoked a fatal disaster. If they went further in, wouldn't it be worse? Some of the surrounding family members pretended not to hear the mercenaries' persuasion. They closed their eyes and sat cross-legged to regulate their chi. Earlier, they did not lend a helping hand, nor did they speak up to warn him. It could be said that they were watching from the sidelines. However, they did not feel that they had done anything wrong, nor were they too cold and heartless. This was the way of the world. Who would help you if you didn't have any relatives, and even have to bear the consequences of getting into trouble? Perhaps there were a few who were zealous for justice, but it was definitely not them. Fengjiu and the rest understood his good intentions. Hence, they only smiled and said, "We are not here to play. So, you really intend to go in?" The Golden Core mercenary looked at them in surprise. He originally thought that since they were already here, it would be fine if they went back after taking a look. He didn't expect that they really wanted to continue forward. Chapter 1064. Fengjiu nodded. Yes, we're going to the Hell Mountain range. You guys can get through? This place is not easy to get through. The Golden Core mercenary grinned and pointed at the 100-meter-high cliff in front of them. If you accidentally fall down, you'll be smashed to pieces with no chance of survival. Also, this place is strange. Flying devices and swords can't be used. Even if you use your chi to fly, very few people can jump 100 meters. Yes, so I'm thinking of a way. She smiled and looked at the abyss. Since this was a path they had to go through, there must be a way to get through. Seeing this, the Golden Core mercenary smiled and said a few words to the Foundation establishment mercenary beside him. The Foundation establishment mercenary returned first, and the Golden Core mercenary came to Fengjiu's side. I really don't know why you guys want to go there. Aren't you afraid of death? He looked at them curiously. These youths were dressed in extraordinary clothes and had an outstanding aura. He could tell at a glance that they were the children of aristocratic families. However, he didn't expect them to not be afraid of death and say that they wanted to go to the Hell Mountain range. Of course, it's because there's money there. Ning Lang smiled and said in a light and expectant tone, I've heard that the spiritual herbs there are all aged. There are also beast crystals and the like. That's all money." Hearing his words, a trace of astonishment appeared in the eyes of the surrounding people. Money? These youths actually came here for money? That's not worth it at all. However, some of them looked at Fengjiu's group and felt that they might not be here for money because these youths were dressed in extraordinary clothes. How could they lack money? Some of them came here to look for spiritual herbs, some to look for treasures, some to see if there were any opportunities, some to gain experience, some to get to know people from the 8 great empires. Of course, there were also those who wanted to rob others of their treasures. There really wasn't anyone who came here purely for money. The Golden Core mercenary laughed and shook his head. "Then I have to advise you not to go in. This place is really a place of death." "You've been inside?" Ning Lang asked. Hearing this, the other people's gazes also fell on the Golden Core mercenary. Most of them were here for the first time and had never entered. Otherwise, they would not have been obstructed by this place and could not pass through even if they wanted to. "That's right, I've been here once. Otherwise, our employer wouldn't have chosen our mercenary team this time. Don't you think so? Then you know how to get there." The Jindan mercenary laughed, but didn't say anything else. Seeing this, the eyes of the others flashed slightly. If he knew how to cross, then they just had to wait and see how he crossed this 100-meter-high cliff, and they could learn to follow him. Thinking of this, his originally anxious heart gradually calmed down. Although the Hell Mountain range was full of danger, it was also very attractive to them. Even though they knew it was dangerous and that they might lose their lives, they still wanted to go in and give it a try. Chapter 1065. Fengjiu and the others nodded and watched him walk back to the mercenary team. She turned her gaze and saw that the group of fierce-looking cultivators were still staring at them. She couldn't help but curl her lips and calmly retracted her gaze. "Do you guys have any ideas?" Fengjiu turned around and looked at Duan Yi and the others. After Luo Fei took a deep breath, he said to Fengjiu, "I just observed that there's a stream of air coming up from the bottom of this abyss every once in a while. If we raise our qi and pass by, we'll definitely be sucked down. Moreover, even if we don't get sucked down, we'll still fall down due to the disturbance of the qi in our bodies. The best way is if there's a rope that can connect the 2 ends of this cliff. Using the rope to pass through should be the best way." "How does this rope reach the mountain range that's 100 meters away?" Ning Lang scratched his head and said, "I can do that." Song Ming said and grinned at them. "We can tie spikes to the rope and use arrows to shoot the rope over and nail it to the other side's mountain range." "That's risky." As Duan Yi spoke, he looked towards the few of them and said, "This method may work, but I feel that if this is the case, those people who are watching us will not let us pass safely. It is extremely likely that the moment we walk on that rope, they will use a sinister move to make us fall into the bottomless abyss." That's right. Those despicable people will really do that." Ning Lang nodded in agreement and felt that was very possible. "You guys go first, I'll stay behind," Fengjiu said and smiled. "This way, we won't have to worry. But that's it. However, before that, we can't let others take advantage of us." Her eyes flickered and specks of light appeared. "You guys go and find some branches and dry leaves first, then pick up a few stones." "What are we going to do?" Duan Yi asked in confusion. "You'll know when the time comes." She curled her lips and didn't explain in detail. "All right." The few of them nodded, and just as they were about to walk away, they saw that the mercenary team seemed to be moving as well. Looking over there, they saw that the 30 to 40 mercenaries were surrounding the edge of the cliff and seemed to be doing something. In the middle of them was an old man. The old man was wearing gray clothes and had white hair. His cultivation was at the nascent soul stage, which made Fengjiu feel surprised. A nascent soul stage, looking for someone to protect him? Moreover, although the strength of the mercenary team was generally not low, except for a few Jinan stage cultivators, there was only one Yuanying stage cultivator. It seemed that the Yuanying stage cultivator should be the leader of the mercenary team. Although the mercenary teams, the nascent soul stage cultivators, the old man's a nascent soul stage cultivator. They actually had to travel together with them? Go. Let's not waste any more time, Feng said to the others. Okay. The few of them responded and didn't pay attention to the situation over there. Instead, they did their own things. Not long after, Duan Yi and the others brought back the things Feng wanted and placed them at the edge of the cliff. The others couldn't help but sneer when they saw them bringing leaves, stones, and the like. Chapter 1066. The others around them shook their heads when they saw this. Children were children after all. They were young and did things recklessly. How could they do something like this in a place like this? Hence, they no longer paid attention to Feng and the others. Instead, they looked at the mercenaries on the other side, wanting to see how they would cross this place. No one noticed that Feng and the others were lighting up leaves and fiddling with rocks. Under the watchful eyes of the people around them, they started to set up a formation. The few people who originally appeared in the eyes of the people around them gradually disappeared as the formation was set up and the thick smoke filled the air. It was as if they had disappeared without a trace. However, the people around them did not notice it yet. They were looking at the mercenaries. At this moment, the few people in the formation took out the ropes they had prepared. There were sharp nails on both ends of the ropes. Song Ming took out his bow, an arrow magic weapon, and shot one end of the rope, nailing it to the cliff on the opposite side. They saw the rope fly out with a whoosh under the guidance of the sharp arrow. It was firmly nailed to the opposite side. They tugged at the firmness of the rope. After confirming that it was safe, they nailed the other end to the ground under their feet. Who's going first? Song Ming looked at them and asked. I'll go first. As Duan Yi spoke, he walked to the front of the rope and said to the few of them, when we cross this rope, we have to avoid the airflow that surges up from below. In other words, when the airflow descends, we have to pass through quickly. We can't stop. I'll go over first and meet you on the other side. The few of them nodded. Be careful. Got it, Duan Yi replied. His doll-like face was solemn. When he saw the airflow descending, he stabilized the qi in his body and opened his arms to balance his body. Only then did he quickly step on the rope and rush over. With the help of the rope, the distance of 100 meters did not seem very far. In a short while, he arrived safely on the other side in front of the few of them. With someone on the other side to meet them, the people on this side were even more relieved. Hence, Ning Lang was the second to go over. Although Ning Lang's figure was round and likable among the few youths, he was not timid. He stepped on a rope and did not stop for a moment. He also arrived safely on the other side. They didn't make any noise. When they reached the other side, they just waved at the few people on this side, using the thick fog to avoid the sight of those people and also to make themselves safer. The third to go over was Luo Fei, followed by Song Ming. Only when he saw that they had safely reached the other side did Feng reveal a smile. However, at this moment, the voices of those people came from outside. Where are those kids? Why is there so much smoke here? Feng Jiu's eyes flickered when she heard the sound coming closer. Her lips curled up as she flicked her finger and added something to the small bonfires. She waited until the airflow from the abyss subsided before she put the swallow cloud back into her space. She opened her arms and stepped on the rope as she rushed forward. Behind her, the sound that attracted her attention could be faintly heard. F*CK. This is a formation. Those brats are actually setting up a formation right under our noses? What are they doing? Damn it. Where's he? Why are they hiding in the array formation? Something's not right. Look over there, isn't that them? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.